Hello, my name is Alan, and today, in my time at least, I'm facilitating a session of my own PBTA game of Dark Age heroes confronting the supernatural, currently called Eotenweard, Guardians Against the Monsters. This is a game in development, maybe Kickstarter in 2022, I don't know. It's an ever-evolving set of rules. This session is being run as part of the Gauntlet Community Online Gaming Weekend. The Gauntlet, if you don't know about us, is an online gaming club where we play online with people from around the world, and we've got quite a spread of people today. You know, they may want to tell us where they're based when they come to give their introductions. I'm in the UK. My pronouns are he, him. But the Gauntlet Community Open Gaming Weekend is an opportunity in which we encourage people to come and try online gaming, maybe try some games they haven't tried before, and maybe try what we think at the Gauntlet is a pretty solid and you know, encouraging and embracing table culture. In terms of this game is meant to be a reasonably gritty, kind of historical, low fantasy game set in the Dark Ages. In terms of time period, it's set in Northumbria, in the northeast of the British Isles, in about 200 years after the Roman Empire abandoned Britannia. And the age of Vikings is still 200 years in the future. So we're setting this in a place at a time of change. What was a Christian British or Britain landmass has slowly drifted towards the Anglo-Saxon. Current scholarship suggests this wasn't some kind of pogrom. This wasn't Saxons arriving from the continent and wiping out Celts. It's seen much more now, I think, in scholarship as being a gradual assimilation. But there are some differences in as much as most Britons are Christian, most Saxons are pagan, believing in Woden, Tyr, and the other gods that one day will fuel a Marvel franchise. It is a game in which the supernatural is very real to people. Whether it's real or not, we'll discover. But it certainly is real to the people who live at this time. We'll be beginning today by creating the settlement. The premise of the game is that our heroes are a band given gifts by their gods to protect the innocent mortals from the supernatural and the monsters, whatever form those monsters take. And so they travel around the countryside from settlement to settlement, drawn who knows by what, portents, signs. And we will create the settlement at which they're going to arrive, which I've christened Adwardael in Northumbria. And we'll create that settlement, we'll create some people who live at the settlement, and then we'll see where play takes us. So that's the pitch. In terms of tone, you know, this is a world in which life is cheap, the supernatural is perceived to be real. And so it can get a little nasty. Certainly, depending on which way we go in terms of the supernatural, there could be some horror, there could be some gore. So it's important we play with some safety tools. So to make sure that when we do encounter that more adult, because this is probably 18 plus, you know, if you were looking for media touchstones, this would be perhaps a gorier version of Vikings, if you can conceive of that, and perhaps a more supernatural version of The Last Kingdom. Both of those are set about 200 years in the future from now, but in terms of look and feel, that won't be far from it. So it's Dark Age, very early medieval. So to be on the safe side, we're going to be playing with some safety tools. We're going to be using the X card. And let me stress to the players, because I've played with one of you before, but the best way to play the X card for me is to show it to me, because I focus on your faces more often than the chat. If I miss it in the chat, folks, and one of you notices, please draw my attention to it. The X card is there simply to put a pause in the narrative, to put a pause in the fiction and in the flow of play. When something comes up that anyone is uncomfortable with, I can use it, you could use it. I've had it used in the past where I've named an NPC in a modern setting, and then that named NPC has begun to do some nasty things, and it turns out that was the name of a brother-in-law of one of the players, and they said, oh, can we just change? And that's fine. So anything that makes you uncomfortable, please play the X card. I won't ask you why you've played it. I may just ask you how far back in the narrative you want me to rewind so I can play forward, hopefully avoiding the bit that's made you uncomfortable. Because part of me in games wants to make you feel a bit uncomfortable, but I want to be in a good way. Yeah. So playing with the X card. We're also playing with some lines and veils. Lines are those things that won't appear in the fiction. And I've put some in, and I don't know if you've added any, but there is a lines and veils tab for the players. Have a look at the ones that are in there now. Feel free to add any more that you would like to be out with the fiction, outside the fiction. That won't crop up. We won't cross those lines. If you feel that I am drifting towards a line and you just want to be reassured, the X card is a good way to just cause a break and just check in. Likewise, I'll do that if I think that you might be drifting towards a line, just to see whether you are going where I think you might be going or not. We're also playing with veils. Veils are things that can appear in the fiction, but when they do appear, we will draw a curtain. We will fade to black. We will screen wipe away from that to the next scene. Because I'm old and British, I always start with consensual sex behind a veil. And I've also put a couple of other veils in there that I typically make use of. So if there are any more in there, please feel free to mark veils. I've also added an interested column. If there is something you are particularly keen to see in the fiction, then please put a tick in that interested column and I'll do my best to deliver. No promises, mind. We're also playing with an open door. Now, the open door is there for a number of reasons. One, if the doorbell goes, please go answer it. You know, if stuff happens, away from our table, our virtual table, for goodness sake, don't sit there worrying about it. Go deal with it. So the open door is there for that. If you want to put something in the Zoom chat that says, I'll be right back, or, I'll be 10 minutes, whatever, that's fine. And hopefully you will come back. We'll just play on and reintegrate your character at the point where you return. The other use for the open door is if something does get a little bit tense or a bit intense, and you just need, to take a break, then please use the open door. Tell us, I'm just going to have a wander around the garden or whatever else, and I'll come back then. But the other thing about the open door is, if this turns out not to be the game you were expecting, please don't feel obliged to sit there and just have to deal with it. If this isn't the game you thought you were going to get, please don't feel obliged to stay, because nobody wants to chain you to this game if it doesn't turn out to be as much fun as you hoped it was going to be. Okay, so that's the open door. Finally, we're playing within the Gauntlet community's code of conduct. I sometimes summarize this as don't be a dick, but basically it is play with respect. Respect the other people around the table, use their chosen pronouns, don't interrupt, give people a chance to answer before stepping in, those kind of things. They're just politeness at the table. So that's all of that. I will check in with lines and veils when we finish the introductions. But can we begin then by just going around the table and introducing ourselves? So Misha, say hello, tell us your pronouns, and introduce us to your Hammer of the Gods.
Hello, I am Misha from Argentina, pronouns they, them, and I am playing the Hammer of the Gods. As yet unnamed. I have a short list of names that I will decide on shortly.
I think the Hammer with no name is quite cool.
The Hammer with no name is quite cool, maybe kind of edgy, so they'll have a name. Their pronouns are they, them as well. And if you were to picture them, They would be very ambiguous in their look. They would have, pelts and armor and, long baggy tunics over their body, and their face covered by, if you're familiar with like the Sutton Hoo mask,
Yeah.
that's the one. Yeah.
And I'm guessing in a slightly Mandalorian way, the helmet rarely comes off and never on screen.
It rarely comes off. That is correct.
Oh, that's so cool. Fine. Thank you. And tell me about your gift, because each of you has been granted a gift by your gods, in your case, the pagan Saxon gods. Which gift have you chosen?
I have chosen the sight. My gods will sometimes show me things that cannot be seen and may be best left unseen.
Wow. I love the idea that this is a character that we don't quite know everything about them, but they can see stuff that the rest of us maybe can't. That's very cool. Great.
Yeah, that is correct. I'm trying to lean into the PBTA, play to find out about
Brilliant. Brilliant.
like why do they wear this mask? Why do they have the sight? Why did they become the hammer? I'm excited to find out as well.
And there is a move that will trigger that reveal. So that's great. Thank you. Patrick, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and introduce us to Osmund the Loon.
Hi, I'm Patrick, he, him pronouns, and I'm in the Eastern United States. And I am playing Osmund, also he, him pronouns, who is the Loon, which is, again, I'm not quite sure what happened to him to get him to where he is now, but it's a matter of having seen and seeing too much, I think. Especially around other people, as his gift is insight, which your gods sometimes grant you an insight into the intentions of others. I think there's a lot of like being around people brings too much information sometimes. He is middle height, late 30s, brown hair and beard, shaggy and in the way of like someone who doesn't look in the mirror very often, or maybe hasn't owned a scissor in a few years, not in any sort of intentional way. And though I don't have the strength of the playbook reinforced donkey, I do think he has a dog friend.
Oh, fine. I'm very happy for him to have a dog friend. That's in fact, maybe every loon should have a dog friend. Okay, moving along. Christopher, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and introduce us to your hunter.
Yes, yeah. Hi, I'm Christopher. I use he, him pronouns. I'm from Germany, so perhaps you'll notice on my accent, I don't know. And I will be playing Lance, also using he, him pronouns, and he's a hunter. So I think I imagine him like being someone who lives on the road a lot. Like, I mean, he's hunting monsters. Like, let's see what kind of monsters. I think that's a bit up to us probably to define what he really hunts. But yeah, I imagine him living on the road. He wears probably functional things, always has like stuff he needs around him for like sleeping anywhere, hunting animals for food and stuff. And his gift is the true path. So yeah, just to mention this, I think he's the only Christian in the party. So his one and only God sometimes shows him the true path when the way is unclear. And I imagine Lance's way is unclear quite often.
Yes, and of course, the priest will say, not just his one true God, the one true God. One wouldn't want to suggest anything bigoted about that. Lance has a much broader view, I sense, so that's fine. And then Dana, say hello, tell us about your pronouns, and introduce us to Ceolwynn.
Hi, I'm Dana, pronouns she, her. I'm also from Argentina. I'm playing Ceolwynn, or I thought the pronunciation was Ceolwynn or something more like that, but I don't know, honestly.
Look, my Anglo-Saxon is rusty. So if it works for you, it works for me.
Sure. Yeah. I'm the Pagan Mystic. I imagine her as an older woman, maybe like a little bit tired and no nonsense, something like that.
That works for me.
Sure.
Now, one of the things about the Pagan Mystic is that unlike the other characters that we have in play today, the Pagan Mystic has a burden that is always with them. So tell us about your burden, Ceolwynn.
So my burden is slot. I prefer other to do things, and that give me -2 to help or hinder, and +1 to do as you ask.
Why would you not have other people do things for you? It makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
It's just better.
It's logical. It's logical. And your playbook it comes with a gift attached. Tell me about your gift.
So my gift is Miracle and Wonders. It's basically a lot of options of how can I magically do things and interact with spirits or creatures or the magical world in general.
Spot on. Yeah. And I'll ask you what some of that looks like when, how you want to spend our special effects budget, if you like, when you first trigger that move. Okay. So those are our broad characters. What I want to do is to take you down all the way down here to about row 55. Where debts of honor are recorded. Now, because this is a one-shot, I'm not going to suggest that we define the debts you owe one another. We'll do that in play. So when you think it might be helpful for someone to owe you a debt, one of the other player characters to owe you a debt, just tell me, and we'll work that out in the moment. Because otherwise we could spend the next 40 minutes fleshing that out, and I'm always a bit worried in one shot that we spend too much time on all of that. But if you want to put the names of those of the other player characters down there under your gods or your god, then that would be great. And we'll fill in the detail of why either you owe them a debt or they owe you a debt in play. Oh, somebody found a way to do the Anglo-Saxon AE combination. I'm very impressed.
I did what I usually do and go to those baby name sites and just copied and pasted the one that I liked.
Brilliant, brilliant. The thing is that you also owe, or very rarely will your gods owe you a debt. I'll be honest with you. Usually you are going to be in hock to the gods. And so each of you is starting by owing your gods 2 debts. The maximum number you can owe them is 3. But at the point where you think that you would like to get rid of one of those debts, just tell me and I'll run through the process, because there is a move you can engage with to do that. The crudeness of it is that you can reduce the debt you owe by taking on a mortal temptation. It may be that we have other people that we have debts with, and we'll come to that in a moment when we do a bit of settlement creation, because you are now going to define the settlement of Adwardael. So what I'd like you to do is to go to the settlement tab, and you will find on the settlement tab a whole load of pagan, Saxon, and Christian British names. Do them randomly or pick one, doesn't matter. Each of you is going to describe 2 people at the settlement who live at the settlement of Adwardael. You're going to define them by a name, and there's a list of female, male names for each of those 2 heritages. You're then going to pick one of the descriptions for that person, and then you're going to tell us who they are. And you'll see there's a list of roles from a Saxon spouse down to a warrior. Let me begin. Again, I'm going to stick with character keeper order. So I'm going to start with Misha. Misha, are you interested in identifying one of the inhabitants of this settlement?
Sure, yes.
Who do you want to tell us about?
Let's say, let's talk about Elflaed, the impious. What's the pronunciation for that?
Impious, I think, is
impious. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be Elflaed, the impious, who is the smith at the settlement.
Okay, so if you want to tick Elflaed, so that means nobody else is going to use that name. Tick impious, because nobody's going to use that description.
I am unable to tick it.
Oh, how strange. I wonder why that is. Let me just see if I have by mistake protect.
I think the sheet.
Oh, yeah, the
it.
sheet
Yeah,
is locked. Yeah,
I have. Yeah. Okay. So how do I take it? I know how to protect something. How can I unprotect it? Change permissions. Oh no. Restrict. Okay, I think the best I can do is show a warning when there are changes.
Okay.
Let me see if that has made a difference.
I think so. And yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the dialogue lets me tick something that makes it so that it doesn't warn me again for 5 minutes.
That's
so
brilliant.
I just need to be quick. So Elflaed, the impious, who is the smith.
Fine. And you'll see that under the role, some of them are in bold, and they are close to the settlement's lord or lady. So they are found in the Great Hall. Now, if you scroll across that sheet, Misha, you will find there's a local map and the settlement. So your smith is not a member of the kind of Great Hall community, the leader's immediate entourage, but they are part of the village. So if you want to just type into one of those cells for the village, Elflaed, the impious smith, then that is one of our NPCs. That's part of our cast of characters. And then I move along to Patrick and ask Patrick to take your pick.
So I think this is Quindretta. I'm going with that. And she, let's see, I chose the name because it looked cool, but then I rolled for the other things. So she is an honest heir.
Oh, right. And because these names may not be terribly familiar to us, when you're transferring them across into the settlement, would you make sure you put the he, him, she, her, or they, them, whatever choice of pronouns you want to give that character. I've simply identified the names from historical sources on the basis of genders in the books. So likewise, put that person over in the village somewhere. They are the heir, so they will go within the Great Hall.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Christopher, would you like to select our next NPC?
Of course. So I think I will. So I can choose between pagan Saxon or Christian Britain, right?
You can. So if you wanted to find someone who might share some philosophical outlook with you, this is an opportunity to do so.
So I will choose Vicus.
I see Vicus.
Vicus, and he is interesting.
There are some slots to write in, so if there's something that you are particularly keen that describes them, you could add something.
No, I think he's dangerous.
Oh,
he's let's see, I'm randomizing this.
Okay. He's the dangerous what then?
Whoa. He's the dangerous. I rolled a 1, so there's 2 leaders.
So
Britain's spouse.
You can choose whether you want the spouse to be a Christian Briton or a pagan Saxon.
Oh, of course, a pagan Saxon spouse.
The ruler is a Saxon, correct?
The ruler is a Saxon, yes, because I've set this in. Yeah, okay. So again, put them in the Great Hall. Does that make sense?
The Great Hall. All right. Yep.
Found it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I get to define the settlement's lord or lady. Let's move to Dana. Dana, would you like to add to our non-player cast of characters?
Yeah, I think I will go with Oswald.
Great.
The let's say the generous, and I think she will be a healer.
Fine. So fill them in to the village, because the healer isn't someone who is within the Lord's immediate circle or lady's immediate circle. And then we go back round and we add a second one. Just when you thought it was time to relax, folks. So, Misha, would you like to select a second person to add to this mix?
Yes, I will choose. Let me find the name. Owen, the secretive storyteller.
Oh, cool. Oh, so the Lady of Adwardael's storyteller knows stuff.
Yes, and they're a Christian too. So let me
add them to the Great Hall, and move along to Patrick. Would you like to nominate another member of the local community?
Yes. We're going to go with Ulfric. And again, ending up randomly, he is the burly itinerant trader.
Oh, lovely. You need to be burly to travel the lands trading.
Exactly. He's got all that heavy thing, goods to carry.
It really does come with a job, doesn't it?
And besides, the arms don't hurt with sails.
So add him to the village. That's great. Then Christopher, do you want to identify a second community member?
Yes. So I have Malari, and she is the ambitious Warchief.
Oh, we all love an ambitious Warchief. I could do a much better job of running this community than the current incumbent. Gorgeous, love that. Okay, and the Warchief sits inside the Great Hall. We still got some space in the Great Hall if we want another one in the Great Hall. So Dana, do you want to tell us about your second member of the community?
Yeah, I will go with Kalunath, the disloyal outcast.
Oh, wow. So we got secretive, ambitious, and now we have disloyal. You lot have got the hang of this game very quickly.
Yeah, nobody here is known as the helpful.
No. That's great. So again, add them into the village. And then there's one thing left for us to do in terms of creating the local scene that we're going to be playing against, and that is to identify a place, a feature on the map surrounding Adwardael. So if you go along a bit from where you've already been selecting, you'll find each player then adds one feature that is near the settlement to the local map, and you'll find this, the place to put this is near the settlement, rather than in the settlement itself. And I'll go back around first to Misha. You choose one from each of those columns.
Oh, I know. This is going to be the Misty Estuary.
Oh, so we're by the coast.
We're by the coast, yes.
That's great, because lots of stuff can come out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so we are overlooking a misty estuary. Patrick, which feature would you like to add?
I rolled randomly again, but it ended up fitting in well if we're on the seaside because it is a menacing beach.
Oh,
the beach is menacing, but it's not good.
No one goes to that beach. No one goes to that beach. Okay. I'm going to throw that back at you later to tell me what makes the beach so menacing. So you be thinking about that. Christopher, what about adding a feature to the map?
Yeah, I have the unholy forest.
Oh, so no wonder our guardians against the monsters have been drawn here. It is sandwiched between the unholy forest and the menacing beach. My goodness me. The gods certainly are predictable in where they send you, aren't they? Okay, Dana, would you like to add somewhere to the map?
Yeah, I think to keep in town, we go with haunted caverns.
So the beach has haunted caverns overlooking the Misty Estuary. And because the forest is so unholy, they have no alternative but to fish. These people are living with risk all the time. That's brilliant. Okay, so that is the canvas against which we're playing. I may add other characters or places depending on where the play goes, but I think you've given us plenty to work with, guys. So yeah, don't worry about that. But let me think then. I need to identify the Lord. Now let me just have a quick look. We've got an heir, we've got a spouse. Okay, I am going to select. Let me go this way. Yeah, I'm going to go with Edward, probably the grandson of the Adward who founded this place. So I'm going to go with Edward, the aging settlement lord. So let me put him in here. Okay, I just need to make that roll over. There we go. So the settlement leader is Edward, the aging Lord of Adwardael. This may explain why someone is ambitious. Who knows? So look, I am conscious that we are approaching 5 to the hour. I'm going to suggest this is the ideal time for us to take a short break. And we'll take a couple of others as we proceed. can I suggest we back in our seats on the hour? Is that long enough?
Sure, yes.
Fine. I'll see you on the hour. I'll pause the recording. Okay, we're back from our break. And so to set the scene, our heroes are approaching the settlement of Adwardael. You can see it behind me. It's getting towards dusk. It's run down. There is a stockade around it, but to be honest, the stockade doesn't look terribly well maintained. There are fields outside the stockade, and you can see people working the fields late into the evening. But as you approach, you notice from the slight rise that you approach from the south, you can see that to the north and west, those fields are bounded by a dark and forbidding forest. And away to the east, you can see the broad estuary of the river that runs off into the forest. And there is a late evening mist rolling in across a dark beach. When you approach, each of you knows someone at Adwardael, because the gods arrange it that way. Sometime in your history, you have crossed paths with someone who lives at Adwardael. So what I'm going to ask each of you now is which of this cast of characters you've created you know. And again, I'm going to stick with my left to right order. I'll take the pressure off you in a little while, Misha. But I'm going to start on that end of character keeper again and ask Hildraed, which of our cast of characters have you crossed paths with before?
I've crossed paths with Elflaid, the impious Saxon smith.
Okay.
And yeah, go ahead.
On.
I was going to say that I picture us as kind of rivals, but not in a very serious way. But I know that the reason that Elflaid is impious is that she is maybe in the process of converting. And I, as the Hammer of the Gods, find that, insulting.
Okay. Now that you have anticipated my next question, because my next question was going to be, does Elflaid owe you a debt, or do you owe them a debt? Now, based on what you've just said, it sounds like they kind of might feel a bit guilty about the change they're making. Maybe they owe you a debt.
I think that yes, that they owe me a debt. Maybe in my role as the Hammer, I have kept them safe, saved them from some horrible thing or another. And they're still the smith, like I have to have some kind of relationship with her.
That's great. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to add Elflaid to the list of characters that you have a debt relationship with. Yeah. And I think we've agreed that they owe you a debt. So you will find there is a column there that says they owe you a debt, and you select a +1. Yeah. And if you want to check out while I'm working my way across the rest of the character keeper, the debt moves, you can see what you can do with that debt. Yeah. But let's move on to Osmund. Osmund, which of our cast of characters have you crossed paths with before?
Is it all of them? No. I like these characters a lot, but I think it's Kalanoth, the disloyal outcast.
That would kind of fit, wouldn't it? I mean, I can't imagine that you're welcome everywhere you go.
Yeah, there's limited people I can find, welcome and or help from.
Okay. And do you owe them a debt, or do they owe you a debt?
They're disloyal outcasts, so I think it would be more dramatically interesting if I owed them a debt. And I think it would make sense in that, like, I haven't always had the help of this heroic band, but I have had the need to face the dark things before. So I think I've had to turn to him in the past because no one else would listen to me or take me seriously to get his help with something that he ended up not wanting to be involved in.
That's lovely. So if you want to add them to that list of characters that you have a debt relationship with, maybe put a sentence or a couple of words into the debt of honor column just to as an aid memoir for why you owe them a debt. And then you owe them a debt. You select a number and it will be a -1 because that's something they can call in off from you.
Cool.
Moving along. Let's move to Lance the Hunter. Which of these non-player characters, the inhabitants of Adwardael, have you crossed paths with before, Lance? Oh, you are muted, I think. Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
It's the second mute button.
I will get the hang of this. I promise. I guess it's Osper. That's how she's pronounced. Oh, the generous healer. And I could imagine she patched Lance up like perhaps a couple of times already when he came back from his hunts. And since she's generous, she probably doesn't really want anything in return, but that's not how this works in Lance's world.
So you feel you owe them a debt?
Yes, absolutely.
They wouldn't take any silver from you when they helped you, but you have a moral obligation to them if nothing else. So fine, add them to the list of characters with whom you have a debt relationship. And then Ceolwynn. Which of these inhabitants of the settlement have you met before?
I think I have a relationship with Owain, the secretive storyteller. I was thinking maybe I'm more of a traveling person, and I sometimes told her about my travels, about legends, about stories I heard. And
so does that mean they owe you a debt for those?
Yeah,
the things you tell them?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, well, if you want to add them to that list, then we know that there are some relationships with the locals. Thank you for that. The reason that's important is that there is a move called Seek Hospitality. You'll find it on the far right-hand side of the Basic Moves tab. When you seek hospitality at a settlement, the hero with the greatest reputation, and oh, I did say each of you has a reputation of 1, because this is a one-shot. So each of you has a reputation of 1, so you all have the same reputation. And then status. Now, this is a class-ridden society. And so probably, given this is a Saxon settlement, I think probably Ceolwynn, our Pagan Mystic, is probably the top of the pecking order in terms of how your status is perceived. I think any warrior would come after that. So that's where we find Hildraed. I think probably a hunter is a commoner with a bow. So I think they're next in the pecking order. And the loon, the bedraggled, rather unkempt loon is probably at the bottom of the pecking order. So I think it is Ceolwynn who takes point, who is the one who approaches the hall and seeks hospitality from the Lord. And I think it would be cool if the sun is setting. Ceolwynn, as you approach, you go through the open gates of the stockade. The people who have been working in the fields have all already made their way out of the fields into the stockaded settlement. You can see lights and fires being kindled in some of these cottages. And as you approach the hall, people will come out of the hall because somebody spotted that strangers are arriving. I think we'll see the aging Lord Eadward. I picture him as slightly stooped, slightly frail. He has a large beard, once a great warrior, but now I think in older age. And he's being helped by his spouse that we've identified. Sorry, I should have written down this name somewhere else. His spouse, Vicus, a much younger man, presumably Edward's wife from early in his life has died, left, gone, who knows? Because there is their heir, his heir, Quendreda, the honest heir. Their choice is they, them. Ceolwynn, tell me, do they appear male in the way they dress, or do they appear female in the way they dress? Or is it uncertain?
I think it will be uncertain, like a combination of clothes.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that. And so they're on the other side, helping their father, Eadward the Lord. And loitering in the back, you see the Warchief. Now, I can't remember who defined the Warchief. Can you remember who defined it? So let me go to Lance and ask Lance, what distinguishes malari the Warchief? What is the first thing that our audience of this pilot episode of Guardians Against the Monsters are going to remember about malari?
I think it's the look on her face. I think she's a stern woman, like perhaps a bit bulky, and she has this ever-judging look in her eyes.
And I can only imagine that malari's eyes settle on Osmund with a look of disdain that this unkempt individual has presented himself at the hall. Osmund, what confirms that this settlement is in some way in trouble as you look around the settlement of Adwardael and you look at these 4 people who've come to the door of the hall to greet you?
I think there are things hanging from the eaves or like porches in front of all of the houses. They're like talismans or like charms made out of shells and bits of like driftwood and coral, things from the beach.
I like that. The kind of thing that, yes, people hang around their doorways as wards against things, stuff. Yeah, the darkness on the edge of the settlement.
I think there's like so many of them in front of some of the houses that in the wind they're like clacking hollowly and making a weird noise.
Yes. Yeah, because where did that breeze come from? As the mist rolls into the beach, the breeze whisks across the settlement and we hear those charms like discordant wind chimes just marking the dusk. Ceolwynn, you are the highest status person in this group. And so what it says is, for that seek hospitality, it says, presents themselves at the hall, introduces themselves by name and their standing. And your standing is, you are a priest of Woden or a priest of the Saxon gods. You take your pick. So what do we hear you say as these people come out and the Lord peers into the dusk to see who's visiting his hall. What do we hear you say?
I think that I approach and say, "My lord, I'm Ceolwynn, and I'm a priest. I'm here with this group I have met in my travels. We seek your hospitality."
And then you introduce each of the others in turn. And I think Hildraed will be the next person to step forward. What do we hear Hildraed say by way of arrival? Misha?
I am sorry, I did not respond to my character's name. So Hildraed would step forward looking kind of haggard and tired, maybe like favoring one of their legs over the other, as if they have a kind of recent nagging injury, nothing serious, and would present themselves as my lord, my name is Hildraed. I seek your hospitality, and I seek to earn my meals and my bed. So point me at your enemies.
And Edward looks at the pair of you and he says, the anything, any favor the gods can bring to us, as he looks at Ceolwynn, would be welcomed. And no lord will turn a warrior of such build and standing as you, Hildraed. And then his eyes drift to Lance. Lance, how do you present yourself?
Yeah, so I perhaps take a step, like half step forward, and I'll say, "My name's Lance. I'm here to hunt whatever's troubling your settlement. And I look around, looking at like what the settlement has to offer. And there's probably not a lot. And there will be like a pause. And then we can see about the payment for our services later."
And I'm curious, Lance, when you say that you are here to hunt what needs hunting,
Mm-hmm.
which of these four characters, the aging lord, the honest heir, the dangerous spouse, or the ambitious warchief, which of them kind of looks at you suspiciously?
Oh, I think it's Malari, like the Warchief, because I guess Lance is intruding in her territory.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. You know, if a warchief can't keep this settlement safe, who is this ragged hunter to suggest anything else is probably what's going through Malari's mind. And finally, Osmund, I'm interested, no one kind of looks to you as an invitation. So you have an option, Osmund. Do you choose to step and introduce yourself, or do you just kind of keep your head down?
Oh, I definitely step forward to introduce myself. There's an awkward moment when no one turns to indicate that I should. So Osmond does a sort of like as he steps forward and says, "And I am Osmond the Enlightened. And this is my traveling companion," he says, indicating his dog friend, Woden. "I am here to see if anything can be salvaged from the coming fire."
Oh, and I think that both the dangerous spouse and the ambitious warchief kind of look at you as if to say, what have we brought to the threshold of the hall?
Yeah, and I definitely gave the Warchief the sort of stink eye back when I said Osmond the Enlightened. So she has some wrong ideas about me.
Okay. And so, Ceolwynn, you spoke first, so you get to roll the dice for how you are received as a group. So you're going to roll 2d6, and the way this dice roller works is if you click on one of the dice, it will get a little kind of circle around it. Then click on the other one, another circle, and then that will have lit up a purple re-roll button at the bottom of the screen, I hope.
Yeah.
And you are adding your reputation, which is 1. So 2d6 plus 1.
I got 2 ones, so.
Oh, how interesting. So the move says, on 6 or less, if you fail a roll, mark experience, folks. Let me put that on the table before I forget. The fates. I'm toying with how I describe the GM, but the GM applies the 7+ result, though the hospitality is meager. We're talking about bowls of pottage, of vegetable stew, thin gruel. There is thin sour ale to drink, and even the fire pit at the center of this barn-like hall is giving off meager heat, just reinforcing the sense that this is a settlement is poor. But we then apply the 7+ result. 7+ result says, the heroes are made welcome and offered a the heroes agree which of the following happens, or they defer to me. There is a heated disagreement between NPCs. Something, and there are some subsidiary questions. You'll find it on the move. Something unusual happens, or the doors of the hall burst open. So does anyone want to? Ceolwynn rolled the dice. So let me go back the other way in the character keeper and see whether someone wants to get the ball rolling by asking Chris, what does Lance want to happen?
Oh, it's tough. So cool. I think I'm tending more towards the heated disagreement between the NPCs.
Okay. Let me drift back along the character keeper and ask Osmund, which 2 of these 4 people have a heated disagreement?
I think it's Quindretta and Malari, the honest heir and the ambitious Warchief.
Malari is really lining up as our most sinister NPC so far. Everything's revolving around Malari, isn't it? Okay. Hildraed, I'm going to ask you what your response is shortly, because on a 6 point, but the hero with the least reputation is involved or implicated in whatever interrupts the hospitality. So that is Osmund. So Osmund, how do you either trigger this argument or are somehow implicated in it?
I think it's that Quindretta, being so honest, being known as being honest, they believe themselves to be an unquestionable judge of truth and character. And I think Quindretta sees something in Osmond that they should like take heed of what he's saying, and Malari is entirely dismissive and disgusted by any talk of Osmond.
And so what I think we will see then is Quindreda turns to Malari. She sat on one side of her father. The spouse Vicus is on the other side of her father. And Malari is on the other side of next to Quindreda. And Quindreda turns to Malari, and we see the strange one. I want to ask him some questions, and goes to get up. And Malari puts a hand on her arm and says, "Sit down." And Malari, "How dare you? I am heir to Adwardael." Hildraed, what's your reaction when this argument turns from quiet words to people looking?
Hildraed would immediately jump out of their chair and demand that the argument be settled immediately, because it is a breach of hospitality and, frankly, a disgrace for the heir to be, tossed around like this by some pretender.
Can I ask you, where is that aimed? Is that aimed at Malari, or is it aimed at Lord Eadward for allowing it to happen?
No, I'm mostly trying to goad Malari into foolhardy action.
Well, let us engage with another mechanic. Let's have a look at the basic moves. I think do as you ask says when the fates agree, when the GM agrees, you've given a mortal NPC a good reason to do as you ask. So I think you have given them a good reason, because you are just some wind-blown stranger who's turned up at this here. No, you don't know anyone in this hall. You know somebody who lives in the village.
Right.
How dare you? And suddenly Malari has forgotten about Quindreda and stands up on the other side of the table from you where you're eating and says, "How dare you speak to me like that?" Let's have you roll the dice to see whether you can push it any further.
Right. So that's plus subtle, which is -1. Okay. So one die, and roll. That's a 5 -1. That's a 4.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's experience, at least.
That is experience. There's always that benefit. And Malari pushes you in the middle of the chest as you're standing up. And you stumble backwards into the fire pit.
Oh.
Right? Mark condition. Now, just to explain, there's a track for condition. Mm-hmm. It goes down before it goes across. So you start at the top left, work down from wearied to wounded to dying, and then wounded, dying, dying.
Okay.
Dead, actually, I suppose. So you are currently wearied by this. You're not on fire. You roll away from that. But I think I will go to Lance next, because I'm not yet, because Ceolwynn is not a woman of action, it seems to me.
No.
Ceolwynn is watching this unfold and wondering whether perhaps if Hildraed doesn't want that bowl, maybe. Lance, what do you do when this fracas erupts?
So my first instinct is that Lance actually enjoys it, like this heated argument, like this, almost brawl already breaking out in the hall. So I think he sits there and enjoys it, perhaps like a moment too long. And then when he sees that Hildraed is actually pushed back, and then perhaps then he is. So what does he do? I think Lance takes out like his dagger and rams it into the table. And he says, like, stop this nonsense.
Okay, I think this is again a plea for the company to do what you ask. You've certainly acted in a way that would allow you to do that. So again, let's have you roll with subtle. Have you chosen the right approach?
Oh, I'm not very subtle.
I fear I've had a quick look. No one is very subtle.
I didn't imagine Lance being a subtle guy. Oh, a 10.
Oh, well, will you look at that? So is that with the -1 counted?
Yes.
God, blimey,
Yes.
right. So 10 plus. It's stunning, really, because Lance does that, and everyone looks at Lance. And Malari looks at Lance, looks at Quindreda, looks at the Lord. Vicus, who looked like they were about to do something, relaxes. And they take notice. And Edward says, yes. This visitor is right. And Malari, you should not have pushed a guest in that way. Please, he gestures to Hildraed, retake your seat. Forgive this breach of his hospitality. Quindreda, do what you're told. And you will have advantage, Lance, for anything you want to do as a follow-up to this, or that you can tie back to this event with these people. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind, because I'll forget about it. Osmund, does anything else happen in the meal, or does it then does that peter out the tension?
I don't know if anything else happens, but I do think through people jumping up and yelling and stabbing tables and things like that, Osmund has just kept like a steady, unwavering eye on Malari. I was wondering if I could use my insight gift.
Oh, would you like to use your insight gift, Osmund?
I would like to.
Okay. So when you invoke your gift, you can either owe your god a debt, or you can mark wounded or dying and pay in blood.
As you mentioned, we are not a subtle group, but I don't think even Osmond is quite up to bleeding at the guest table here in the first 5 minutes. I've got one more debt I can give to the gods. He identifies with Woden in particular, but understands that might come as a package deal.
I have to ask, does the dog only have one eye?
Yes, definitely.
Of course he does.
I didn't even think about that. That's good.
Great. Woden, the one-eyed dog. Okay, so yeah, so you're gonna owe Woden a debt to activate your insight, yeah?
Nice.
And I guess that what does that look like? So tell us, how does the audience know when Osmund uses this gift? Is it just, is there a special effect? Is there anything that you want to build out from it?
I think there is. I was briefly tempted to have a talking dog, but I think that's a little too crazy for this. But I do think there's sort of a view from Osmund's viewpoint, staring at Malari, and in between what she's saying and how she's reacting to other people, there's this sort of like stuttering camera effect where she just turns straight towards Osmund and whispers things, insights and truths about her mind.
And I think it is very clear the ambition is naked, and the ambition is directed via Quindreda. As the heir, if Malari can establish a relationship, either whether willing or unwilling, with Quindreda, malari could rule here once Edward is dead, and he is aging.
Gotcha.
Does that seem a rich enough motive?
Yeah, no, it clarifies like how she wants to go about things, where she's aiming her sort of thrust. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the benefit of using your insight. Ceolwynn, let me come back to you. You've seen all this happen. There's an explosion of potential violence, actual violence against Hildraed. Lance kind of just shocks everyone back to common sense. Does Ceolwynn do anything, or are you content to let the meal come to an end and retire to a bedroll beside the dying fire pit?
I think Quindreda, the hair, has caught my attention, and I would like to maybe approach them if they are alone or somewhere where I think we can talk.
Let's assume that the meal has ended. Vicus and Edward disappear behind a curtain at the end of the hall where they have a private sleeping chamber. Malari leaves the hall to do a last circuit of the stockade and make sure the gates are closed before she will curl up next to the fire pit. All the members of the hall, they don't have sleeping places. There's a raised platform around the edge where they sleep to avoid the rats. And so I think there is an opportunity for you to have a conversation with Quindreda. How do you open the conversation?
Right. I think I would say, my lord, thank you for your hospitality, and sorry for if the behavior of my group was a little, they are a rowdy bunch, but we really come here with good intentions, and we are trying to help this settlement if we can.
Thank you, Ceolwynn. I am concerned. My father is not a well man, and he is his grip on our people has weakened in recent years and even months. I fear that he doesn't have long left for this world, and I'm worried that I'm unready to take over. I don't know what to do.
Oh my lord, please. The best leaders are the one who question themselves. Is a great virtue to have one as a less prepared than you actually are. And if we can be of help, we know I saw malari. She also desires to lead this settlement, isn't it right?
I think we are now at the point where you have triggered the move, look about you. It's a basic move. When you look about you and consider the risks, opportunities, or clues in the scene, this will allow you to ask a question about someone, something, or even create some fiction. So it's on the basic moves tab, column I, row 20-ish. So this is roll plus sense. How sensible is Ceolwynn? I can't remember.
It's 0.
That's so better than -1.
Yeah. So just the die. It's a 7.
A 7 altogether. So on a 7, either ask one question about the location or situation, someone or something in the scene, what might have happened, what might happen next, or ask me to reveal the weakness of the person you're with, or agree a detail to add to the scene that enriches the fiction, or ask me to do so. So you can ask for clarification I think that I've given you her worries for free. You get that for free. But I think if you want to get into her relationship with Malari, you will need to ask me about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think I want to know about that.
And she says, no, you mustn't misunderstand Malari. Sometimes she can get angry, but her heart's in the right place. She's done nothing but serve my father loyally, and has told me that she hopes to serve me equally loyally when the time comes. Oh, I have no doubts about Malari. She reacted badly today. Sometimes I think she's threatened by other warriors of status, like your friend Hildraed there. The sense that I want to convey, I think, is that she trusts Malari. She may be naive as well as honest.
I see. Well, my lord, I don't want to question the loyalty of any of your allies. Maybe I just got the wrong impression, you know? And
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have.
But what I wanted to ask you is if we can help in some way to ease at least some of the troubles that you are facing now.
Thank you. I will talk to my father and tell him how willing and able you are to help. Thank you. But now I will retire. And she goes to her on the opposite side of the hall from where Malari, who's returned from doing her rounds. Unless anyone else wants to do something while this conversation is going on and Malari is doing her rounds of the stockade. Hildraed, what about you? Do you want to do anything, or do you want to retire and we'll cut to the following morning?
I think Hildraed is more than a bit embarrassed about what happened to them. Like, making this big show only to get pushed into a fire. So they'll retire for the day, regroup, maybe use their gift when they're in private.
Right. Okay, I'll come back round to you for that once I know whether. What about you, Osmund? Do you want to do anything before retiring in a blanket next to the fire?
I sort of want to characters. I sort of want to go off and see if I can't find Kalanoth, the outcast. But I was thinking maybe I could sort of cover it with the capering fool move.
No, I don't think you need to do that. I don't think anyone's paying particular. If you want to go outside, they'll assume that you're going to have a piss against the wall. So I don't think you need to engage with capering fool unless you particularly want to for color. But you can, I think you can just when Malari goes, nobody else is watching you, and you can slip outside. Because I think it's quite likely that you spotted your outcast friend across the settlement, kind of watching from the pig pen. He's sleeping with the pigs because it's warm in there.
Then Osmond will head over that way and see if he can't poke his staff in amongst the pigs to sort of jab Kalanoth in the shoulder.
And the pigs are together sleeping, probably some piglets snuffling in the warmth of their mother, and huddled up against the back of that pig is Kalanoth, and he's dragged some straw around himself just to kind of stay warm on this cold night. And you poke him with the staff and what? Who's that?
It's me, Osmond.
Oh, I saw you arrive. What do you want? Do you have any food?
I have a little bit that I brought from the main hall here.
Oh, hall food. Yes, hall food. holds up his
I was
hands.
going to give it to Woden later on, so you need to convince me why it would be more important to give it to you.
Ah, we are old friends, Osmund.
Yes, and as your friend, I want to make sure this whole town is safe, that you're safe, that everyone in it is safe, and there's something going on. Something smells wrong. Something sounds wrong.
I think you just engaged with Look About You, because you want to ask him some questions, don't you?
Yeah.
You want to know the skinny from the disloyal outcast.
Sense. I have an incongruously good amount of sense.
Yeah, the loon is always the most sensible character in my experience.
I see the truth. I know the truth. It's all obvious. Sort of obvious. That's an 8.
Then on an 8, you can ask me one of those about those questions: place, people, something, what might have happened, what might happen next. Or I don't think we're talking about a weakness of a foe. Or you can agree a detail. So you could tell me what he tells you.
Gotcha.
Or you could defer that to me and ask your question.
I think I'm gonna ask a question this time. And it's about the situation going on here in the town. There's obviously all this tension and drama going on at the high table, but that's just smoke and mirrors. That's not the real problem. That's just people and their pettiness. There's something dark behind this. I can feel it. I can smell it in the back of my throat. So I want to ask him what's behind all this tension. What's pushing it? What's weird here?
And as he clambers out from behind the pigs, disturbing them as he does so to take what you give him to eat, he says, "Yes, the old fool is simply has lost any sense of control, and you know, the things, the spirits, the creatures of the forest, they smell it. Did you notice when you arrived how quickly people came back to their homes? Have you seen the charms?
Seen them, heard them. I don't like them.
And why aren't we grazing sheep on the pasture? Why are the sheep in a pen inside the stockade? Because something's taking them, Osmund. Something's taking the sheep.
But wolves, it could just be wolves, bears.
Wolves leave a carcass. They don't leave skin and bone. There's something out there.
I think Osmond, like he gives this sort of frantic eyes back and forth, looking at the line of trees as Woden gives a little whine and snuffle next to him.
And the breeze rises and the charms clack against one another discordantly. I think at that point I'm going to cut back inside the hall. Lance, is there anything you want to do while Malari is out, or after Malari comes back, or do I cut to a meager breakfast?
I think not, just perhaps like a very short flavory thingy. So I think Lance perhaps sits next to Hildraed with the the rest of like the ale, hands one to them and is like, and says like, I think there's something very strange going on here. The gods didn't send us here just to observe like the struggles and like the leadership of this settlement, but nevertheless, I think they will need our help, and they will pay for our help. and they will pay for what they did. And I'm just looking down at Hildraed's feet, perhaps like still a bit singed.
Hildraed, response?
Hildraed simply looks down and like fixes their gaze on Lance, and reminder that this is like through the mask, like this completely expressionless iron mask that usually betrays no, or at least Hildraed maybe thinks that it betrays no emotions, but their body language says that they are ashamed and dejected right now. Maybe looking forward to tomorrow being better, or at least being clearer, because Mildred hasn't had the chance to like investigate as much as others, so they're feeling lost.
I'm curious, Hildraed, whether you're going to use that to trigger or to kind of back up the idea of taking on a temptation and reducing a debt you owe to your god.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Because one of the temptations is pride, a preoccupation with your superiority, and it seems like that's what's currently preoccupying you.
Yeah, so that's a dead move. No, that's a basic move.
That's a temptation. So if you go up near the top of the character, you'll see there's a slot for 2 temptations. None of you can have more than 2 temptations in play at any one time. And the move is called assert your mortal hang on,
free will.
Yeah, free will. And all it says really is, if you want to do that, mark a temptation and erase a debt to your gods.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I would do that.
And
So
what
yeah,
pride will do is it will give you -2 to face danger, but +1 to help.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I love it
will
when a mechanic melds into role play. Thank you.
So that's -1 debt to my gods and the temptation,
And
which is something that I can clear with 6 solas in friendship. Correct.
Yeah, and you know, if you want to do that right away, if you want to turn this conversation into that,
Sure. Yes. Yes.
because
So
maybe you'll feel better afterwards.
Yeah. So what Hildraed will do is that they'll sit down at this, I'm picturing like a long table where people have their meals in the Great Hall, and merely sit down and pour a glass of something, wine, mead. I'm not sure what's historically appropriate.
Sour ale is
Sour ale
is
sounds perfect.
What's on the table.
Yeah. So pour a glass of sour ale and bring it closer to themselves, and then pour another and push it to the other side of the table and gesture to Lance to come closer.
And the way this moves work is when you share your woes with someone in the hope you can bridle a temptation, roll plus debts they owe you. So that's what you're aiming at. But let's have you talk to Lance about your woes at the moment.
So basically, as Hildraed starts getting into their cups, they start becoming more emotional and more open, and they reveal that they trust Lance's judgment because they know that Hildraed is so intense with their faith that people will sometimes just, appease them by saying, "Oh, surely it's the gods' plan for you." And Hildraed finds that unsatisfying and also insulting, like a wound to their pride. And they know that Lance has no such qualms. Lance knows that they're not going to get through to me, by invoking religion. So they speak honestly and maybe harshly, or at least Hildraed sees it as harsh. That it's like cauterizing that emotional wound. So they start like revealing their inner heart, like they say, I am so ashamed. I have been so I have not been up to snuff, and I fear that I may have displeased the gods, which I'm sure you don't care about, but I'm sure I have displeased both my companions and our hosts.
Lance, do you have any solace to offer poor Hildraed?
I think, yeah, Lance takes a sip of this sour ale, and he's like, "How, I, Hildraed, honestly, I don't agree. I mean, just look at what they offered us. Just look at how they treat us. We're here to help them. We offered them our help, and they give us sour ale, meager food. We have to sleep here, like, besides this dying fire. No, you did not shame anyone. It's
So
them."
Hildraed considers this and then starts getting like kind of riled up, like in the way that drunk people get when you agree with them. Like yeah, that's right. We deserve so much better. You are so right, Christian man.
Well, that would seem to be the point where we might engage with the move.
Yeah.
So now, because I didn't make you set up any debts in advance, the simple question I'm going to ask Hildraed is, do you want to roll with +1? In which case, that means that Lance owes you a debt. Or do you want to roll with -1? Oh, sorry, or do you not want to roll with +1? I beg your pardon. Sorry.
I don't think that Lance owes me a debt. I don't think that it makes sense in the fiction. If anything, it would be the other way around.
Well, this could have been in the past.
Oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So if you want to roll with +1.
All right. So checking in with Chris and Lance, then do you feel like you might owe me a debt from the past?
There have probably been plenty of opportunity to owe you a debt.
Yeah, you've been traveling together enough to have a reputation of one each,
Yeah.
So Lance, why do you owe Hildraed a debt? Did they save you from something? We didn't fill in the detail if you know.
Yeah, so I have this picture in my head where Lance supposedly killed the monster, which, yeah, so he never killed anything, but he told like the settlement, whoever, yes, I told the monster, I killed the monster. So it's all a scam. And then it is revealed, and then like in this scene, suddenly the real monster comes and appears like behind Lance, and he's saved by Hildraed, who then actually killed this monster. So
okay. Now, if you want to put something in your debts of honor alongside Hildraed that just paraphrases that, and you are going to owe Hildraed a debt for that, and Hildraed alongside Lance, they are going to owe you a debt. So you select the one in the they owe you a debt column, yeah? And then we'll get you to roll some dice with +1 because Lance owes you a debt.
Yeah. So that's
it doesn't erase the debt. You just roll with +1.
Right. So that's a 2 and a 2, which makes a 5. No,
this gets better and better. They were patient with you. Oh, mark experience, by the way. They were patient with you, for which you owe them a debt. So now you owe them a debt. So not only, so the debt situation is, but you have not found value in their counsel. Do not clear a temptation.
All right. Right. So then I suppose that in the fiction, this would mean that I am even more prideful than I was before. Like, oh, Lance is so right. I should not have doubted myself.
Yeah.
And basically taking Lance's advice and twisting it to not have to grapple with anything difficult.
Exactly. And that, I think, brings us to a natural commercial break. So I'm going to suggest that we're back in about 5 minutes.
Sure.
Is that long enough?
Sure, perfect.
Okay, see you in 5. Okay, so we've got a fairly rich background now. I think we've got some politics. We've got something sinister going on around the settlement. I think now it's time to get stuck into this. So, Hildraed, what do you do in the middle of the night when you hear the cracking of wood?
I will. So I am sleeping in this, raised platform in the Great Hall, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this creaking, does it feel like it's coming from inside or like it's coming from the outside?
Outside, it sounded like a significant piece of wood being snapped. I'm talking a significant piece of wood, not a significant piece of wood.
I understand, yeah, like a log.
Yeah, exactly so. Crack.
So immediately, I think that the first thing that Hildraed would do in this is don their armor, like their massive pelts, grab their shield, like their classic round Vikingish shield, and they would try to use their gift. Like Hildraed maybe like foolhardy and kind of violent, but they're not someone who would rush into danger without checking first.
I think that's a very sensible approach.
So she would want to use the sight.
Fine. So will you owe your god a debt, or will you sacrifice blood to your gods?
I will owe my god a debt.
Okay, increase the debt you owe, and your gods sometimes show you things that cannot be seen and may be best left unseen. How do you want this to appear? Do you want this to be a vision? How do you want to spend the budget?
I feel like a vision, or maybe something like slipping into some living being's consciousness. Like I'm seeing what I want to see through the eyes of a passing bird or rat or whatever.
Oh, that's very cool. I think cut to a large owl sweeping across the settlement. And so the perspective shifts to that owl looking down. We see it spot a field mouse, and the field mouse scurries away, and then it banks over the settlement. And you can see a larger than man-sized shadow something has just pushed over a section of stockade. What do you do?
Oh, in that case, I can see that there was like an immediate danger and a chance to prove myself, to prove my might and my valor. So I will, in full battle gear, step heavily out of the Great Hall, but I will be shouting curses and prayers, like dedicating this upcoming victory to the gods, to my hosts, to my companions, banging my spear against the dome of my shield, like making a ruckus, announcing myself.
So I think that fairly swiftly, I think Lance is the person who will wake, because he has the senses of a hunter, and so sleeps lightly, perhaps. And so it doesn't take, even the donning, you clattering as you pick up spear and shield and put these furs over your shoulders. I think that's enough to rouse Lance. But it's probably not until you make an active effort to draw attention by hammering your spear on the back of your shield that Osmund, and finally Ceolwynn, who enjoys lying down, rouse themselves. So I think what I'm imagining is Hildraed charging out of the hall fairly swiftly. Lance is not far behind, but Osmund and then Ceolwynn will be behind that if they choose to leave the hall, and I will come back to check in with them shortly. And probably malari will be roused, but what she'll do, I think, remains to be seen. So Hildraed, you charge outside, and we know this is a misty estuary.
Mm-hmm.
And so the village is swathed in mist. But you can hear something in the mist, something, you saw in your vision the second log of the stockade being pushed over and snapping. And you can hear something moving through the mist inside the stockade towards the sheep pens.
Right.
What do you do, Hildraed?
So as Hildraed is driving themselves into this kind of berserker rage, they look backwards, they see Lance not far behind, and they shout like, "Oh, you'd better hurry, friend, or there'll be none left for you."
And you charge towards the sounds.
Yes.
I will describe this as you will see a large shadow in the mist, probably 8 or 10 feet high, and bulky, moving, and you can hear the heavy steps moving towards it. It's some kind of ogre or giant. Now, the way that violent confrontation works in this game, can I just explain what we're about mechanically before we get launched into it? If you look at the basic moves, you'll find up there in column A, render them vulnerable. Before you can actually take out a foe violently, you have to, as it says here, overcome a defense that I have described. And so I am describing something that is large. So this thing has a long reach. And maybe as it's moving through the mist swirls and it reveals a warty, horny skin. So there are two defenses this creature has. One is its long reach, and two is its tough skin. And so, as the move says, say which you are going to try to overcome and what you do. Then roll with the attributes the fate agrees is most relevant. Oh, you are muted.
Yeah, sorry. So as I approach this ogre trollish like entity, what I'm going to do is try to get inside its reach. Like Hildraed fights with a spear, so they're familiar with the concept of fighting at your preferred range.
Fine.
And spears are longer than swords, but they're shorter than whatever limbs this creature has. So they're going to try to get inside of their reach so they can look for maybe a soft spot, like
Fine.
maybe their belly or their mouth.
That makes sense. And actually, it's dragging half of one of the stakes from the stockade. So there's this. It's got a huge fist and it's gripping this bit of wall, this bit of stockade as a club. So I think that is probably rolling with steel, because this is about you, trying to avoid any swing with this club and getting under it so you can get inside its range. That makes sense to me. So let's have you roll to render them vulnerable using steel.
Which is a +2, yeah.
I thought that might be why you described that.
Yeah. That's 11.
That's an 11, goodness me. Now, let me introduce you to a move. Which is, it's a debt move. I've lost the debt moves. Let me pull them down here. I know, sorry, it's not a death move. What am I talking about? I'm being stupid. But I've lost it in. Hang on, I've lost it. What have I done with it? Sorry, I know it's here somewhere. How embarrassing. Oh, maybe I deleted it. I think let's play without that move until I can find out what I've done with it.
I'm so intrigued now.
Well, look, I'll tell you what it is. You can at any point owe your god a debt in order to invoke your standing as a warrior. If there is something that you are doing that you think a warrior would do particularly well, you can owe your god a debt and you will improve the outcome by 1 step. So you go from 10 plus to 12 plus. And there is a 12 plus option in this move.
Isn't that move assert who you are?
Ah, thank you. Thank you. Oh, there it
It's
is.
the first
There
one.
it is.
That's what I changed its name recently from invoke your standing to assert who you are. And so it's alphabetically in the wrong place.
Right. Hiding in the corner.
Yeah. So you could assert your warrior status, your standing as a warrior, and you could turn that from a 10 plus outcome to a 12 plus outcome.
That sounds great. Yeah, so that would bring me down to owing 3 debts to my gods.
Oh, that's the ceiling, right?
That is the ceiling, yeah.
So on 7 plus, describe what success looks like. Well, I think you've told us that in how you kind of, you get under the swing, but go ahead.
Yeah, so Hildrad is still charging forward, and the way they assert their status as a warrior is that they shout their name, the name of their parent, and the name of like their home village to the monster, as one does.
I love that. So I have now erased long reach. This thing's long reach is no longer a problem, but you take harm as established. So you are going to take 3 condition. So you're going to mark 3 of the condition boxes, working down the first column and then beginning to fill the second column.
Right. So that's 1/1, and so 2 in wounded. No, sorry, yeah, 2 in wounded, 1 in dying.
Yes. So this, in order to do that, it buffets you with this club, and knocks you off balance, but you're still inside its swing now. Yeah, so you've succeeded, but at that cost.
Yes.
But on 10 plus, you describe how you choose 1, overcome another defense, it's tough skin, dodge their attack and take less harm, force them to where you want them and have advantage on your next move, or draw all danger foes. I don't think that one applies, or deflect all harm from another to you. I don't think that applies either.
Yeah. So I will say I overcome another defense in the way that I don't actually manage to seriously, like grievously wound this monster, but I have, let's say, opened up its skin in some way so that it is wide open for me or somebody else to give the finishing blow.
So is there a soft spot in this horny skin, this warty, horny skin? Is there a soft spot that you've spotted?
So let's say that I have discovered that a lot like fantasy dragons, like the belly, the neck, and the mouth are the soft spots.
I don't see why we can't go with full-on genre for that. So yeah, they're clearly very horny over the backs and shoulders, but soft underbelly. Fine. So both the defenses are now won't count. And let's have Lance come on the scene at this point. So Lance, you followed Hildrad out, you followed her into the mist, and there is this swirling mist, and you can see Hildrad ducking and weaving and jabbing with the spear. What do we see you do?
I have a question first. Like my playbook move, this first digger pit, can I do this like as a flashback kind of thing?
I think if you told me that you'd gone for a wander around the settlement, you might have had the fictional positioning. But I think given where we are in the fiction, I don't think you've got the fictional positioning for that.
Yeah, All right.
But
Good.
but you are, you know, I think I don't think so.
I mean,
Oh no, goodness me, this is a one shot. Use the friggin' move.
okay, because I mean, I don't. So what Lance is doing is, so I think perhaps we see him like back in the night. Perhaps he got some hint from Osmund about the sheep, that the sheep got missing.
Fair point.
So Lance
Flashback,
went to the sheep's like den or wherever the sheep are kept, and he put up a little trap, like nothing super serious, just to make someone perhaps fall over. And I think what Lance is doing now is he doesn't want to steal the kill from Hildraed, because I think this kill is important for them. So I think Lance is taking his bow and trying to drive this ogre, or whatever this is, into his pit, so that then Hildraed can use this as an advantage for the kill.
I'm more attracted by a tripwire than a pit.
Mhm,
I think
a
a pit
tripwire,
takes a
yeah.
little bit more labor.
Yeah.
So let's have you. So when you have a fictional positioning to have planned, when it's triggered, roll plus sense, and let's follow the move.
Plus sense. Why?
Oh, by the way, if it matters, I have a move that if I mark condition in a fight, I have advantage until the end.
Fine. Well, you certainly have advantage because you took a big blow then.
I did.
So I got a 10.
A 10. Okay, so on 10 plus, hold 2. When it is triggered, say how it works. I think we're going for a tripwire around the sheep pen. Spend each hole to roll with advantage or pass it to another hero against whatever you have trapped. After the last hole is spent, whatever you trapped breaks free. Yeah, so there are 2 advantages to be passed around. And it sounds like you're already passing one to Hildraed.
Yes, absolutely.
So Hildraed, you're going to have the advantage from your fight. The benefit of 2 advantages don't really play, but I think at this point, Osmund, do you leave the hall?
Yeah, I think he like sits up straight out of bed, and Woden does the sort of like ears perked up, looking at the same time.
Pointing.
Yep, and he just mutters, "The sheep!" He gets up and goes running outside.
To protect the sheep. Ceolwynn, what about you? You're going to tend to be the last one to move, but do you follow Osmund?
Yeah, sure. I think I want to see what's happening.
And you follow Osmund towards the sheep pen, which is probably just this side of where the fight is taking place. So the fight is on the fence side of the sheep pen, and you're going to save the sheep. Let me come back around to Hildraed. The move that now opens to you, defeat them. Down there below, render them vulnerable. When you seek to end a conflict with a foe that has no remaining defenses, and you took them both out, say what you do and roll with steel.
So my attempt to finish this fight, I'm going to try to maybe like climb on top of this creature, jam my shield into its mouth.
Yes, because I think the fictional position we got from Lance is the thing trips over and rolls onto its back.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to basically keep it pinned with the shield and try to give like one final thrust with the spear into its neck.
Let's have you roll with steel.
Yeah.
To defeat them.
So that's with advantage as well.
That's with advantage. So roll 3 dice, take the top 2.
So that's 9 total.
9. Okay. I don't think you've got the option to assert your standing, but
I cannot take any more deaths.
No,
oh my God.
no. So on a 7 plus, They're at your mercy. Do they receive it?
They do not. There is nothing that I want from this beast other than to see it gone.
And so where does the spear point plunge into this creature?
It plunges clean through its neck in a way that maybe it like gives off one last gargle before maybe like convulses and lies dead on the grass, I guess.
And the teeth marks it has impressed on the metal rim of your shield. Right. It's dead. And you hear a scream of anguish from the beach.
So I'm going to say that Hildraed is exhausted.
Let me leave you with that scream of anguish. You and Lance hear that scream of anguish. And you too hear a scream of anguish, Osmund and Ceolwynn. But then out of the darkness, you hear and Woden goes Osmund?
And how close is this to the other two?
They're on the other side of the sheep pen from you, where you can hear Hildraed screaming his success to the gods. But then there is this scream of anguish in the distance, and then much closer to, in the mist, to one side of you. Maybe something came through the hole in the fence.
I think Osmond definitely looks nervous. He's not excited about this, but he's still sort of in that dream state. He's like, gotta protect the sheep, gotta protect the sheep. So he's standing there with his staff brandished, but he's calling over his shoulder, Lance, you gotta help me with the sheep. The sheep, you gotta help me with them.
Ceolwynn, you are on Osmond's shoulder, and you also hear out of the mist. What do you do, Ceolwynn? Osmond is screaming for help. Shouting, not screaming. Unfair. Shouting for help.
Can I use the other war move to try to get some information from the spirits in this scene?
You can. So when you remind us of a time when your burden caused a problem and then owe your gods a debt, they reveal the spirits that infest the scene. They will tell you what they know, granting you advantage when you look about you. So tell me sometime your sloth caused you a problem.
Sure. I think maybe Ceolwynn has been charged at some point to from maintaining the charms and rituals to protect some sort of village of which I was in charge, and maybe I just didn't do it as often as I should, and maybe sometimes that caused a monster to step in when the charms were there.
I think that's a perfect example of sloth in action. Let's have you then roll to look about you with advantage. So you're rolling 3 dice, taking the top 2, and you're adding your sense to it.
That's a 7, and my sense is 0, so a 7.
A 7. So again, I will offer you the opportunity, if you assert who you are, if you tell me why being a pagan mystic should make you particularly good at this. If you owe your gods another debt, then you could improve that from a 7 to 9 to a 10. What that would do would be give you 2 questions, not 1.
But I started at 2 debts to my god, and now I get in a 3rd, and so a 4th, I think it's not possible.
sorry, I'd forgotten you'd already paid one. Okay, so you can ask a question about what's going on, or something or someone in the scene, or you can tell me something. You can describe a detail. So what you can ask me a question, or you can reveal something that the spirits reveal to you. Because I'm tempted to think, in keeping with the way that that Hildraed's gift worked, I'm wondering whether we see an earth spirit or a spirit, one of the sheep spirits. You get a perception from their point of view.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah. Maybe I want to know what might happen next, and yes, a vision from the ship or something like that would be
fine. I think you sense from the sheep, the spirits of the sheep are those animal spirits. Fear that their vessel, the sheep, are going to be killed. They've seen others of their flock taken in a similar way when they were outside in the meadow, as described to Osmund, and the thing that comes out of the dark doesn't come alone. It comes with wolves. And I think that if you are between the sheep and the wolves that are growling in the mist, the wolves are going to come for you, is what's going to happen next. Does that seem like a fair answer?
Sure. Yes.
Not a nice answer, but a fair answer. What do you do with that vision of what's frightening the sheep, Ceolwynn?
I'm first going to warn Osmund. I'd say, beware, I think there are wolves out there.
Then, do you want to do something else, or do you want to defer to Osmund?
Maybe I say something like, I'm going to go back and warn everyone else about the wolves. And I kind of run away, leaving Osmund to the thing, but actually to give the alarm,
Of course. We know this is principally to give the alarm. Don't get me wrong. None of us are misunderstanding that. Osmund, Ceolwynn runs into the mist back towards the hall. What do?
He looks nervously down at Woden and says, "Well, I guess we're protecting the sheep then." He's like white knuckle gripping his staff in front of him.
And out of the mist come several wolves, heads low, trying to work out how to get to the sheep and whether they have to take you, and maybe you'd be as good as sheep.
Osmond sort of leans down closer to their level and growls back at them.
I love that. Is this it? This might be triggering capering fool, because if you're regarded as harmless and gain advantage to exploit the situation, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. They think they can just rush around me to the sheep.
That might give you an edge. Does that appeal?
Yeah, I like that. He sort of shuffles back and forth, growling, like getting closer and staring into the face of one of them.
And what it says is, reveal some aspect of your life before you were touched by your gift. So let's have a little insight to Osmund before the Loon.
I think we see him younger, much less shaggy, and in like finer quality clothes. Not much, but not the sort of like travel worn.
So respectable, but not a lord.
Right. And he is in a keep. He's works in the kennels as a dog trainer, and we see him.
Don't give too much away, because you might need to do another detail from his past. So he was a respected kennel keeper to a lord.
And I think the sort of echoing thing that we see here is that there's like a puppy in front of him that he's sort of training, and he's doing that same thing, like he's down and he's growling with it, like sort of play fighting with it.
Brilliant. Then roll plus soul.
So I have a 1. So you guys, 7 plus 1 is 8.
8. 7 plus pick 1. You're regarded as beneath notice and gain advantage to stay that way, or you're regarded as harmless and gain advantage to exploit that situation.
I don't think I'm beneath notice. I think I'm harmless, and they can, like, I can do something as they're trying to rush past me.
Fine. So you have advantage as they rush the sheep. What do you do with that advantage? Well, hang on. Let me go back to Lance. Lance, you heard Osmund shouting in the night, "Lance!" And you've probably heard Ceolwynn as she runs back to the hall saying, "There are wolves! There are wolves!" What do you do, Lance? You can't see Osmund on the far side of the sheep pen because of the mist. But I'm curious what you do.
So Lance's first instinct was like, this is the typical gibberish of the loon. But then as Ceolwynn is like emphasizing the threat, I think he's like, okay, there must be something. And so I think he takes the straight way through a sheep pen and straight towards where he hears Osmund's voice.
And, you know, the sheep become even more agitated behind you, Osmund, as Lance plows his way through them. Let me just check in with Hildraed. What are you doing? Currently, you are still standing on top of this body, exulting in your power and potency.
Yeah. So I'd imagine that Hildraed maybe was in the process of cutting off some part of the monster to take as a trophy, but then they hear all these the screaming, this commotion, and still maybe possessed by this blood rage. They're going to rush towards wherever the sound is.
Direct route through the sheep pen, or are you going to go around the outside?
No, directly through, like going through the shortest possible path. Yeah,
I'm with you. So follow Lance. Okay, Osmund. The pack has made a judgment about you, and it is that you are not a sheep, and therefore they go to rush past you. What do you do?
So I am here to defend my sheep. For some reason, there's not a straight up defense move, so would this fall under like rendering them vulnerable?
It is, and some of the options there give you an option to distract them or do them harm or draw attention to you rather than leaving them to the sheep. So yeah, so you are rendering them vulnerable. How?
So I think it's his staff. He's sort of like been holding it along the ground so that it's less visible to the wolves. And he just like brings it up and sweeps it through the legs of several of them as they just swerving around. They're just brushing right past him, so he doesn't have to reach far to knock him.
So that seems to me to be a cunning plan built on his common sense. So I'm going to suggest that's roll with sense, because it's not a straight up confrontation, is it?
No.
I mean, I thought you might agree. I thought that's the way you were angling.
Definitely prefer that over steel. I mean, this is wood. Steel wouldn't even make sense.
I know. So roll plus
and I get advantage
sense.
on this, right?
You do.
Nice. So that's a 4 and a 5 is 9 plus 2 is 11.
It is 11. Now, do you want to invoke your standing as a loon, pay your gods a debt, and improve that to a 12 plus? Or are you going to settle for 10 plus?
Unfortunately, I am full up with the gods at the moment.
Right.
So
Yeah.
a 10 shall have to suffice.
Okay. So on a 7 plus, you told us what success looks like, and I think we see them, there's mewling and and the pack is disrupted because they have a single defense called the pack. So that's gone. You take harm as established, though, so I'm going to give you 1 harm. So mark your first condition box, top left, and work your way down. And then they choose 1. I think you are wrong-footed, and it allows them to flee. Because I think that the pack is only any good when it's a pack, and your staff has disrupted them, and they scatter into the night, just as Lance hurdles over the sheep pen to stand beside you. And malari, Ceolwynn, you've brought malari to the door of the hall. And Hildraed, you'll arrive shortly afterwards. And so, yeah, the wolves scatter through the settlement.
And so I think then for my 10 plus, I'll take the -1 harm as the one that was trying to get its teeth into me just gets a mouthful of staff and gets some splinters for its trouble.
Great. So the wolves have been disrupted. They've scattered. You can hear the howling as it looks like they're rushing towards that break in the fence. In the stockade, and there's a collective sigh.
Ceolwynn,
go on.
Won. I won. No need for your assistance, kind fellows. He looks a little confused, but also proud.
And surprised, certainly, yes, certainly surprised. Ceolwynn, what did you say to malari that got her to suit up, get a shield and an axe and come to the hall door? What did you tell her?
I think I chastised her about aren't you the Warchief of this settlement? Why I should let people from outside defend this town while you sit here doing nothing?
Oh, malari is warming to you all the time, Ceolwynn. She's really, the look she gives you. Were she a pagan mystic, that look could kill. And she she pulls on her mail coat and grasps a shield and axe and rushes out into the mist. But of course, everything's gone. Maybe she sees a wolf streak past. And then I think it's closer to dawn than any of us thought, because the mist begins to disperse, the sun begins to rise, and there's the body of this ogre giant. And the sheep are still agitated. Let me go to Lance. What is your thinking at this point, Lance?
We need to get paid for this shit.
I think what you can assume is that if the rest of your time at Adwardael goes well, then Lord Eadward will owe you a debt. What about you, Hildraed? What are you making of this?
I'm picturing that Hildraed has calmed down considerably now. They see the wolves scattering, but they don't see killing wolves as part of like their divine task. Like they're not monsters, they're animals. So you would see Hildraed by the sheep, trying to talk to them, like saying, calm down, little friends, the danger is past.
Osmond, what is your reaction for Hildraed behaving like you?
I give them a weird side eye look like they're sheep. They can't talk back.
Oh, here I thought I was crimping on your style.
So, a scream of anguish from the beach beyond the stockade, a large dead humanoid, somehow associated with wolves that have escaped into the night. Cut to the hall, where you are sharing another meager meal. And Lord Eadward is overjoyed. He's inspected the body, which has been dragged to the space in front of his hall, and he's, my dear Hildraed, you are a warrior of great potency. This creature is what must have been preying on the flocks. I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, I will say, first of all, your words honor me, but also I would be remiss to if I took all the credit for this kill, because I could not have done this without Lance's assistance. He opened up the monster to allow me my moment of glory.
Is that entirely in keeping with your current sense of preoccupation with your own superiority? Are you not thinking you should take full credit?
I think that I owe Lance a debt, and that making me struggle with my pride. I'm still taking credit for like the final blow.
Yeah.
But I do owe Lance something. Yeah. I did have like a very helpful assistant. Could have been anyone.
Do you or Lance share that anguished scream that you heard from the beach?
I will, at least I Hildraed would say it, and I think that I will talk to the Lord and say, but I think that we should not rest easy yet, my Lord. I do not.
But why not? You've killed the creature.
I've killed a creature.
What, do you think there's another one?
I do believe there's another one.
Yeah, so of course there's always another one. We're not done here. You know, these monsters, they are attracted by your sins and your wrongdoings. At least that's what some priests always tell me. So
yes, we're at that point in long ago and far away playing D&D adventures when somebody says, if we finished the module, why are we still playing? So clearly there is something else amiss. Ceolwynn, what's your contribution to this conversation over?
I was thinking if maybe I could use the move I have chosen, in the mind of the monster move.
Oh yes.
So
yes.
Okay. When you seek out the mind of a monster you have previously encountered, or look into the mind of seeming mortal you think that may be a monster, roll plus soul.
So who or what is the focus of this move? Is it somebody around the table that you think might be a monster, or is it something else?
I was thinking if maybe I don't know if I could focus on the ogre in a way of maybe discovering if there is more of their kind around.
I think that would be fine if Hildraed hadn't finished it. If you had a prisoner,
sure.
I think that would be fine. I think your options are the wolves or someone you think might be a monster around the table.
I think everyone is a little bit sus right now, so maybe the wolves are the best.
The most obvious monster.
The most obvious. So yeah.
Okay.
Also, I was thinking. Sorry, a little tension. When I run away and let Osmund like alone, could I interpret that as me asserting my free will and falling into the temptation of fear, so I can maybe reduce.
Yes, yes, I think that's entirely legitimate. Yeah, well spotted.
Maybe so I can have a little and dead to my god.
A little bit of
If I need it. Yeah.
Fine. So you are now -2 to help or hinder, and also -2 to render them vulnerable or defeat them. But you are +1 to do as you ask and +1 to look about you. Fine. Always looking about you in case something's hiding around that corner. Okay. No, yeah. That's excellent. Yeah. Good plan.
Sure.
So
I roll plus so. Yeah. It's 8 plus 2 is a 10.
Oh, okay. So on 10 plus hole 2, spend holes to ask, and I will interpret list of questions. I always try to interpret as broadly as I can.
Sure. Where is the monster now?
You see a dark cat, because I think you are literally in the mind of those wolves, or one of those wolves. And I think that it's the wolf that that Osmund actually kind of took a bite out of tried to bite out of Osmund's staff. And so you've got this nagging sense of damage to its gums and the lips around its mouth. But through its eyes, I think you see firelight in a dark, damp, dank, stony cavern.
Right. So my next question.
I suppose as I check out the local map, these could be the haunted caverns.
Yeah, I thought so. Maybe who or what does the monster regard as the biggest threat?
Oh, I think that is certainly Hildraed. Because these wolves came with that ogre giant, and they will certainly have seen Hildraed dispatch it.
So now with this information, I think I may interrupt the talking and say the gods have granted me a vision. I think the wolves are hiding in the caves, and I saw some torchlight around them, like they are not just animals. There is something else. And if my lord will permit it, I think maybe I could talk to my good friend Hildraed and maybe some of your warriors and dispatch them and see what this is all about.
And I think Quindrada will chime in and say, your description, it sounds like the caverns. And Vicar says, my dear Edward, it has been too long since you donned the armor of a lord. We must not allow these visitors to confront this threat alone. You should lead us. And that, I think, is where we'll take our next break. Can I suggest that we take a pause until 5 past the hour?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. See you then.
See you then.
Okay. I think we're back for our last hour. Time is flying. And we left it, I think, with Edward nodding sagely at Vickers' suggestion that he needs to don his armor for the first time in 15 years and take the field against this threat. I do want to slightly retrofit something to your vision, Ceolwynn, if that's okay. I think that probably given the location, firelight probably doesn't work. So I'd like to have it lit with a ghostly greenish kind of algal phosphorescent light, because I think that would tie in it to being the haunted caverns better than there being a fire down there. Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you. So dying, Hildraed. When you have a dying box, you are at disadvantage on any physical tasks. This may be a cracked rib, or maybe, a bit of internal bleeding, but it's not going to get better on its own. And I think the challenge is whether anybody has a playbook move that has anywhere in it clear dying.
Not any of mine.
I'm just wondering whether there's anything. Oh, yes, there is. Down there at the bottom of Ceolwynn's Pagan Mystic. Clear dying or erase to condition or cure someone.
True.
So what I'm not sure, Ceolwynn, is oh yeah, and you have so you could invoke your gift if you wanted to use up that debt to your god that you just gave yourself some breathing space about.
Sure.
But you don't have to.
No, but if Hildrad is the hero we need for this fight, I think it's necessary.
Who doesn't want Beowulf along when the going gets tough? So what is this healing? What does it look like when you set up to do this? Because it's some kind of invocation or spell, but what do you actually do when you want to heal somebody like this, Ceolwynn?
I imagine some amulets or charms I always carry with me in my pouch, and maybe place them over or around Hildrad and some kind of ritual. Probably the whole thing takes a couple of minutes, and Hildrad is kind of annoyed.
Yeah, Hildrad will be like kind of fuming, going like, I need no help, go check on the others.
And it's clear that he does, because I think probably then we'll see Hildrad taking his heavy cloak off, and right. Just there's a blood stain perhaps next against his ribs. Are you prepared to be treated, Hildrad?
Very reluctantly, but yes.
So let's, Ceolwynn, have you engaged with miracles and wonders? Will you owe your god a debt, or will you mark wounded? Will you sacrifice blood or debt?
Maybe I could mark wounded. I mean, I'm a power. I don't think I'm gonna see much fighting.
Certainly on the basis of last night, no.
Maybe I just can keep running away,
What I will say, Hildrad, is you can clear wearied, because you did have some kind of rest last night that would give you a bit of recovery.
That makes sense.
So, Ceolwynn, let's have you mark wounded. And what is it when you sacrifice blood to your gods to get this power? What does that look like?
Maybe I took my knife and make a little cut in my arms, and I bleed over these charms before setting them up.
Oh, I like that. So they are literally empowered by your blood. So that's the description. Roll plus soul.
5 + 2 is a 7.
7. So this is all about clearing dying. And dying is cleared. Nothing else though, Hildrad. So you just clear that single dying box. If you had more dying filled in, all of it would clear, but you just have the single dying. And we see that the blood begins to stop maybe, and some of the bruising is still there around the ribs, but how does the audience know that you're feeling less fragile, Hildraed?
I will stand up, puff my chest out, and maybe go like this, where I used to be wounded, to show that I can do this and not wince in pain.
That's fine. I like that.
And I will just, look around and, maybe grab my dented, cracked shield and talk to the others and say, let us hunt some wolf.
Cut to the beach. I guess that we've called this the menacing beach. And I think there are a couple of things that show it to be menacing. One, you can see the large footsteps that creature left making its way up from the beach. You can also see the tracks of the wolves heading across the beach towards these caverns. But it's also the fact that though it's still misty, it's kind of perpetually, visibility is poor. You can hear the sea, but you can't see it. As you make your way along the beach to the caverns. And while it's described by the locals as the caverns, that's because they know, very few people have gone in there and come back. Everyone has a grandfather that lost a childhood friend in the caverns. But the folk story around it is that, they branch for miles. You can get lost in there. And it's odd, but it's almost as though the mist isn't coming in off the sea, but is issuing out of the caverns. Because as soon as you come to the threshold, there is a clammy humidity about these caverns. But Lord Eadward, in his fine mail and his gold embossed helm, with his shield, and he's got a shield and he's got his spear, but you can see he's really, using the spear almost as a walking stick. Vicus is also arrayed for war, as is Malari, and Quindreda is there, and the villagers have come down to the beach to see their lord confront an evil. And there's, whispering. Galanoth comes up to you, Osmund says, is the old fool really going in there?
Yep, he seems to have been tricked into putting on all those heavy clothes and walking in there to the horrible monsters, terrible monsters, just awful things in a cave. Why would you go in a cave? Caves are bad. Never go in caves.
Ulfric, the itinerant trader, is selling charms to the villagers. Buy a charm, and that will help your lord defeat the evil. Elfled, the impious smith, comes up to Hildraed and says, the stories about this place, you really should, Hildraed, don't be rash.
Have you heard the stories about myself?
You are such a boastful idiot, said Elfled.
Why, thank you. If I ever have anything to compliment about you, I will return the favor.
I don't know why I bothered, as she turns away. And Osbur, the healer, is there with her box of herbs and potions, talking to Quindreda, saying, don't worry, lady, if the worst comes to the worst, I'll do all I can to help when they come back out. And so Eadward leads you into the darkness. I think probably Vicus has a shield and a torch. Malari is escorting her lord, and the four of you follow the torchlight into the darkness. and soon you are swallowed by the mist. Cut to the villagers outside, peering in. I can't see. Can you see them? No, I can't see them. And the lady, Quindrada, is kind of, oh God, please protect my father. The caverns. Tell me something, Osmund, that worries you about the caverns.
I mean, they're already glowing a little bit and misty. That's worrying enough. But I think it's the echoes in here are all wrong. Like, obviously there are people talking. At the very least, the sort of head table family up there keep bickering and arguing with each other, but those aren't the echoes that I'm hearing. Like, the echoes are off time from things that they're saying, and every now and then, like in the silence, there's just a very clearly spoken word that wasn't something that anybody said.
Lance, what does it smell of in here?
Rotten flesh.
I like that. Thank you. Rotting flesh. Ceolwynn, if there are spirits here, they are cowed. They are worried. Have you ever encountered anything like this before?
Maybe I have, but not in this exact way. Maybe some spirits are restless around some monsters or something like that. But this is such a big place, and there's so many of these spirits.
Subdued spirits, yeah. Hildraed, what do you see as the who is your focus in the group?
My focus right now is the Lord, whose name I've forgotten. I'm sorry.
Eadward.
Eadward. I'm focusing on Eadward because he seems eager to prove himself beyond his physical capacity. And he's likely to be a liability, but I still walk up to him and try to encourage him in a way that also encourages being careful. Like, maybe I say, my lord, we are at an advantage here. All these narrow passages, I feel like
before you
tools,
get into the conversation,
yeah.
Both Vickers and malari position themselves between you and them. Clearly, they think that he is their job, not yours. If you want to push it, I'll have you face danger.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I have
Okay.
a -1 to that because of my my temptation. -2 to that because of my temptation.
When you face danger by taking a risk or acting in difficult circumstances, they do not want you interfering in this. Say what success would look like and roll with the attribute that I think is most relevant.
Success would look like maybe not physically shoving these people, but rather just raising my voice with so much authority that they have no choice but to listen to me. I give words of encouragement and tactical advice to the Lord.
Okay, I think is this the power of argument, or is it common sense?
I feel it's more common sense. Like, I'm not trying to, I think my words are going to get through no matter what. The issue is whether they'll be heard or whether I'll be shouted down by someone else.
Let's have you roll with sense then.
Right. So that 1 in sense and -2 because of my pride. So that's -1.
How dare they get in your way when you want to?
How dare they get in my way? So yeah, that's a 3.
Okay. I think you don't even get close to him.
Right.
You would literally have to strike malari down.
And I do not want to cause that kind of trouble.
So they are in charge of Edward. I'll still have you focused on him, but in terms of advice or close protection is not on. I think that I'm going to run this as a kind of bespoke move. I think making our way through the tunnels, given with my eye on the clock. Oh, Lance,
I do have this gift. Perhaps I can use my gift for it.
You do have this gift.
I have True Path.
You do. Would you like to invoke your gift?
Absolutely.
Owe a debt or pay in blood? I don't think the Christ God goes much for blood, but it's up to you.
Totally debts all the way.
Yeah. Early sign of Catholic guilt. So you owe your God a debt, and they show you the true path when the way is unclear. There is some argument when you come to branches in the tunnel, but I think I'm probably seeing Lance now on point.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for where are the signs of the wolves. And while much of the ground is pebbly and sandy, or puddles of seawater from the last very high tide, I think that the Christ God does indeed show you the true path. Does that look like a special effect, or are you just very good at tracking?
I think it doesn't look like tracking at all. I think people would expect Lance to do something tracking like, but I think what Lance does is rather at every branching of the caves off, at every junction, he stands for a second or two, and he has this little cross on his chest, and he touches it quickly, shortly. Perhaps says a teeny tiny prayer, and then he is very assured of the right path.
Fine. And because he looks like he should know the true path, because he's a hunter, they'll assume that he is tracking these wolves, and therefore they will follow him. I think I am going to ask, I think you're going to get there, yeah? But I do want to see if anything happens on the way. Is there any move that anyone thinks would be relevant as you make your journey through these caverns? Let me start with, I'm looking at Hildraed. I'm not seeing a move there in your playbook that it looks like you could trigger.
Yeah, me neither.
I think we've had Mind of the Monster. I'm not inclined to trigger Mind of the Monster again for Ceolwynn. It's going to be difficult to have narrative positioning to have dug a pit in here ahead of time. So Osmund, I am looking at I See It All.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I think as we're going through the cave and everyone is having arguments and there's all these weird echoes and noises, Osmund is just having a sort of calm and conversational chat with Woden. As he's saying things like, "Oh no, she doesn't look like the type. Well, we could tell, but we'd have to cut him open and look inside, and I don't know if there's time for that. No, that only happens during April. Remember last April? Oh, last April. He's just having this very esoteric, weird conversation with the dog and receiving probably perfect wisdom back.
I like that. Let's have you roll to see it all. When you consider some sequence of recent events, roll plus sense.
All right. Those two. Oh no. That's 5.
Okay. Now, of course, if you were to owe your god a debt and assert your standing as a loon, you could improve that from a fail to a mixed success. Do you have that option available to you?
I don't, unless I could also assert my free will.
Oh yeah, I'm very happy for you to immediately trigger a temptation, get a debt back, and then spend the debt. Is there a temptation that appeals to you?
I like fear. I think he's used to having these conversations with Woden, and of course he knows in his mind what Woden is saying to him, and through Woden, of course, Woden. But with all of these weird echoes, he starts to hear like coherent responses in the echoing voices around him, and Woden is giving him a very like knowing, one-eyed look, and this is a bit realer than things usually get.
Yeah, and I think so. If you mark that temptation, leave debt where it is, you can improve that failure to a mixed success. But I will tell you that some of that what's coming out in those echoes is a kind of disjointed. You are doomed here, as were we.
Oh. Yeah,
But let's have you roll the dice. Well, no, sorry, just ask me a question.
Yeah, and as he's considering, he's also giving looks back over his shoulder, like, can we still see the cave entrance? How do I get out of here?
No, you can't.
So I think the thing that I am most curious about is how do these things, meaning the sheep attack and the monsters in the caves, how do they relate to the other things that have been happening, meaning the in the hall struggle, the family struggle? What's the link there?
And these echoes, there's a whisper, and it says, Vicus, we have seen Vicus before. He has sacrificed here. Does that give you enough?
Yeah. I think it's even like Woden gives a little point and growl as the voices are naming out Vicus, and with sort of a panicked look in his eyes, Osmund starts like trying to work his way through people to get to Hildraed.
Fine.
Since Lance is way up front.
He is. Yeah, the dangerous spouse is dangerous, I think is what the echoes are telling you. So Lance, you were at the sharp end of this. What do you do when you see what looks like a large body of water? You know, it's a pool lit by this greenish light, and it's probably 20 paces across, 20 meters across.
Is it like really black water?
With this greenish reflection coming off it.
So I think I look back and I say like, Osmund, come here.
Now, Osmund, give me... you were pushing your way forward to Hildraed. Now Lance is calling you up to the front. Oh, you might be muted.
Yeah, am I close enough to Hildraed to grab his attention?
Well, I suppose what I want to know, do you want to spend a moment with Hildraed, or do you want to do what Lance wants you to do?
Gotcha. You know, if Lance actually takes a moment to call back, like, he was the only one that ran towards the danger that I was in, rather than Ceolwynn, who ran away, and Hildraed, who kept talking about himself. Or themselves, sorry.
Yeah. So fine. So Osmund, you kind of skirt Edward, Vicus, and malari, and you head up to Lance. Ceolwynn, at the moment, I always assume the sloth means you're at the back. And if I add fear to that, sure, it kind of confirms it.
I think I have a suspicion about they are trying to put Edward in intentional danger, so he died and they can inherit. So I think maybe I'm going to keep an eye on that. So if I can intervene, so maybe the closer I can get to them.
Well, right now, only Hildraed is between you and them, because Lance and Osmond are up at the front. So, Lance, Osmond has arrived.
Yeah, it's very simple. Lance is like, Osmond, give me your staff.
And I think like as Osmond passes all of the rest of the people and is getting up front with Lance, he simply realizes like how exposed and in front and very like lonely it is up here with just Lance, and now he wants his staff. Like he doesn't want to hand it over. Is there a
Okay,
death
if you
thing
don't
that
give me
we
your
could-
staff, then go dig around these waters. We need to find out how deep they are, if we can wade through them.
Oh no! You want to poke into the black, mysterious, unknowable, probably dangerous waters? Yes. Oh, definitely. Take my staff. Oh, yes, it would be perfect for that. You should do that.
And so Lance approaches the edge of the water and...
Yeah, and I poke into the water. Yeah.
What do you do, Lance, when there is resistance to pulling the staff back? I love we're engaging a 10-foot pole, just for old time's sake. Thank you.
Is it like pulling me in?
While you're contemplating this, hang on. Edward, Vicus, and Malari come up beside you, Lance. Where is the creature? Says Edward, peering into the water. And his shield and spear.
Mm-hmm.
Hildraed, you are behind Edward. Malari and Vicus are up there with him. Osmond is standing looking by. Ceolwynn, you come up alongside Hildraed. And then something yanks the staff away from you, Lance. Do you let it go or do you hang on tight?
Of course.
You hang on
tight. I want to go into the pool.
Oh, you want to go into the pool? Okay. Then no, I let you follow the staff as it's pulled into the pool. That's fine by me. I won't even.
Osmond just gives a brief yell of, "You better bring that back!"
So Lance, you are pulled into the pool, or you are stepping into the pool, and the incline is not precipitous. It's a gradual. So you're up to your knees in the pool, and something under the water is pulling the staff deeper. And of course, seeing this, Edward steps into the water with Malari and Vicus, forming a kind of tiny shield wall.
Mm-hmm.
Hildraed?
I will try to like get ahead of them because I am intuiting the same thing that Ceolwynn is, that they are deliberately leading Edward into danger.
Okay. So you, because it is a slow moving shield wall, it must be said, as Edward kind of hobbles forward. So you can get round in front of them without any trouble at all.
Right.
What do you want to do when you get there? Are you facing them or forward to where Lance is continuing to head into the deeper water?
I will try. I am with my back turned to them, like facing whatever danger is in the water. But I will try to maybe mask my intentions and, do this with my arm and go, my lord, let me scout ahead.
Okay. We'll see how well that goes in a moment. Ceolwynn, a watching brief at Edward's back.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna wait and see how they respond to Hildraed, and if they object, then I intercept.
Okay, Hildraed, face danger to make it a serious "don't fuck with me," or do as they ask to convince them.
I'm thinking do as I ask. I think they are
fine.
They do have a good reason to do as I ask.
They do. So roll with subtle.
Which is -1, I think. Yeah. That's 3. I'm very close to just advancing,
Yeah, well,
like one miss away.
happily, something wraps around your ankle and pulls you into the water. You're on your back being pulled past Lance. Osmond, what do you do?
Mhm.
I think so he is sorry. Where is Vicus right now? Is he part of that advancing shield wall?
Yes, Vicus is on one side, malari on the other of Edward.
Then I think Osmond has crept up into the water behind Vicus, and he just leans into Vicus's ear and whispers, "I can smell your blood everywhere in here. It stinks of your sins."
What is your intention with this, Osmond? What do you want the outcome to be?
However it works, I would like him to be focusing on me rather than Edward right now.
I think that this is a kind of twist on capering fool. Yeah?
Nice, yeah.
Because
Yeah, let's go with it. Well, that one's an 11.
oh, you are both, he considers you to be harmless and beneath his notice, and you get advantage from either of those, but his attention is certainly on you. Yeah?
Yeah.
And you have advantage to exploit that attention. While you think about that, let me go back to Lance. Lance, Hildraed just got dragged in front of you. What do you do?
So I think I let go of the staff. I
Whoosh, it's pulled into the water, disappears. Hildraed is on his back up to his waist.
I like, what does this look like from Hildraed? Is this like panic in Hildraed's
Oh no, I mean, you know,
eyes?
he's well. You never know, do you? I
You
mean,
wouldn't
it's
know.
all
Yeah, your mask. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. You wouldn't know. You would see Hildraed merely angrily struggling.
Angrily struggling. All right, so I think
simple
Lance.
Question: do you follow Hildraed into deeper water, or do you hold position?
No, I think what Lance is doing, he has like a knife and a throwing knife, so he pulls out both of them and then he dives into the water to go after whatever is down there.
Fine. Lance rushes into the water, the deeper water ahead of Hildraed, looking to find whatever is dragging him in. Osmond has Vicus's attention. Ceolwynn is watching Edward's back, and then the water erupts, and a creature wrapped in seaweed, vaguely female in form, maybe, but their bottom half is a tentacular mass, so tentacles writhing, and it is one of those that has Hildraed's ankle. So Lance, let me go to you to see whether you can sever. This thing has several defenses that you need to overcome. It is amphibious. It is so it can back off into the water or disappear under the water. And it has long tentacles. And I have to tell you, it is also capable of some regeneration.
Ooh.
So I'm thinking tentacles are what you're going after at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it sounds like steel, to be honest. Sounds like you're just getting stuck into this.
Yes.
So render them vulnerable with steel. And steel is pretty good for you, isn't it? Because you're, as they say, a hard bastard.
Of course. So roll 2. Oh, thank God I'm a hard bastard. So I got a 6.
Hildraed, don't forget to mark experience for that fail.
I did. That was my fourth one.
Okay. Sorry, Lance, what did you get?
A 9 total.
9 total. I don't think this is particularly huntery, so I'm not going to offer you the chance to assert your standing. So on a 10, so 7 plus, describe what success looks like, and I think it's severing tentacles.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you take harm as established, so you are going to take 1 harm from other tentacles that begin to kind of try to strangle you. And then it chooses, I think it will display one of its powers. And the power it displays is its power to harness the water. And water begins to, it's using the water to bludgeon anyone coming at it. Yeah, so it's now got a solid water elemental bludgeons going on. But I think that counts as freeing Hildraed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm slightly worried that Hildraed has disappeared. You're not under the water yet, honestly. Ceolwynn, you see this thing erupt from the water, wrapped in, it's green, it's scaly.
My first priority is Edward retreating in some way, or is just going in there still?
Hildraed, I think, is probably not being dragged in now because Lance has severed the tentacle that was dragging Hildraed in.
I was asking about Edward.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. Yes. I think Edward and malari step forward to confront this creature in a shield wall of 2. Vicus is slightly further back because their attention was on Osmund. Hildraed, your ankle is freed, but I'm curious what Ceolwynn is going to do.
I raise my voice like a lot, and I want to tell them, malari, Vicus, are you perhaps mistaking Lord Eadward for a sheep? You seem to want to drive them to the slaughter. And retreat right now. Protect your lord.
So is this facing danger to force them to do it, or are you trying to convince them to do it?
I imagine do as you ask, more than persuasion, but whatever you call is fine.
Roll is subtle. Roll plus subtle.
I have +1 to do as I ask, and a subtle is 1, so that's +2.
There you go.
10 + 2 is a 12.
Oh wow! They will do what you say. Malari realizes what's going on almost, and says, "My lord, step back." Vicus looks daggers at you. Attention drifts from Osmond to Ceolwynn. You gain advantage as a result. So if you can exploit this, you get advantage. And malari and Eadward are so in awe of your kind of power that they owe you a debt. I don't think that's going to come to much this evening, but still, it's there.
I can maybe exploit that debt to incite them to action, to fight side by side with Hildraed and Lance instead of retreating with Edward.
Malari, I think, is going to fall back with Edward because malari may be ambitious, but she's not dangerous to Edward. It's Vicus who's the problem. So you could use that, cash in the debt to make malari confront Vicus.
Okay, sure, that sounds. I imagine that I talk to them still in my raised voice, and I say, aren't you see what's in front of you? This person is clearly trying to put our lord in danger.
And malari suddenly looks at you, looks at Vicus, sees the look on Vicus's face as Vicus draws his dagger and steps towards Edward. And malari, I think, will defend Edward from Vicus. Lance, what do you do?
Lance is completely focused on this creature. I think he does not get anything of what is happening with the power dynamics of like so I imagine he's like diving underwater, getting up, taking a breath, slashing at everything he can like get to, that like tentacles the body of this monster. And perhaps he's like he's recognizing that perhaps these tentacles regrow, like, so he's realizing, fuck, this is like a bit more than he usually gets into, perhaps. So I think Lance likes
that's
to.
cool. I think that's cool. So maybe where they're cut, they sprout into a handful of smaller tentacles that begin to kind of. Hildraed, you're back on your feet. What do we see you doing?
Question: would I have marked condition from being, grabbed and pulled?
No, it's entirely a narrative hard move.
Cool. So I am seeing Lance thrashing with the beast, and I am seeing what's going on with Bickus and the others, correct? And I think I would turn my attention over to Bickus.
Fine.
Maybe try to charge at him, tackle him into the ground.
Fine. So you're concentrating on Bickus. Lance is concentrating on the creature. I know what Ceolwynn's done. Osmund, are you still focused on Bickus?
Yes. And I think given like the stress that he's in and the frustration of having this plan almost go right but being twisted at the end, can I trick or annoy him into like confessing his part in this? Like villain monologuing?
Yeah. I think that would be a good do as you ask. Or
Nice.
Is there a way that we can spin this into I see it all? I think we could spin it. What does I think if you asked how do these things connect to other things that have been happening, we could spin that into Vicar spilling his guts.
Yeah.
Does that fly?
Yes.
Sure.
Let's have you roll with sense then.
Have advantage from my
You do.
previous craziness. Geez, wow. That's a 6.
Wait, could I then maybe try to help?
You could.
I know
You
that the
could.
help move does a +1 to the roll, so maybe this is a moment.
It is. So when you say how you help another hero after they roll plus subtle social, is this backing the kind of social approach, or are you trying to physically intimidate Bickus?
I'm trying to physically intimidate him, and what I'm going to do is, on top of the usual fare of banging my sword against my shield, I am going to remove my mask.
It's got to hinge up, hasn't it? It's got or hinge open somehow.
Yeah, I'm picturing like it hinges up, and beneath it you see my face bearing like a really gross scar, like it's been mangled some, let's say, months ago when this person became a Hammer of the Gods.
Fine.
Like in a fight against a monster that they lost but managed to escape. So this is like this hideous pockmarked face.
I love it.
That is
roll
horrifying
plus
to look
steal.
at. Yeah. So that's +2. And +2 is. Oh my god, that's another miss. That's a 5. I do get to advance though.
Congratulations. So as Hildraed turns to bellow at Bickus, one tentacle whips out and drags Hildraed away.
That again.
And I think I'm going to have you drop your shield on the way.
That's good.
And Osmond, that means that you are stuck with a fail, I think, on Do As They Ask.
You mean I get the benefit of an XP?
You do. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. And Vickers plunges his dagger into your stomach. Would you mark 2 harm, please? Because I think it is with such anger and frustration. Will you shut up? Ah!
Oh, no, that wasn't what I wanted at all.
And he spins around and launches himself at Edward. Lance, you plan to confront this thing, so let us have you render it vulnerable with steel.
Yeah. Let me quickly roll. That's 9 again total.
9. Okay. So on 7+, you have erased. You already took out the tentacles. You have now actually. I'm imagining that you've kind of grasped one of these tentacles, and as it tries to back away, it can't. You're holding it while you try to hurt it.
I could imagine perhaps like I have a quiver with like arrows that I pin the tentacles perhaps into the ground.
Yes, I like that. We could go full Tolkien elf where you're shooting the arrows into the ground, but that might be a bridge too far for this genre. So tentacles are gone, and its ability to withdraw, its amphibiousness has gone. These tentacles are still regrowing where you're hurting them. It chooses, it will use that bludgeon. I think it will inflict a point of harm on you using the power of the water. And there's no 10+, so I think that's that. Hildraed, I know. Let me go to Ceolwynn, because Ceolwynn, you were watching Edward's back. Malari is Osmond is Hildraed was whisked away. Malari is not sure where to look. I think it's down to you to protect Edward, Ceolwynn.
I want to make like a last appeal to reason to because I imagine like confronting him hard and saying, do you want to all of us die here and you die a coward, a traitor? Or maybe you could try to redeem yourself, face the monster, forget about this silly plot you are trying to address, and maybe you can die a hero, and maybe we can all tell stories of you helping us instead of betraying us at the last time.
And I think that actually requires you to get between him and Edward and look him in the face. So I think it's face danger with subtle.
Sure, that's a bad roll for me, but I think it's cool. Subtle is 1, but I have -2 for fear, so -1. It's a 6. -1 is a 5. Could I try to maybe assert who I am?
I think you can.
Raise?
Absolutely.
Okay. I imagine him like trying to interrupt me when I talk, like he don't want to listen, and so I say to him, listen to me, because I am a priest of the ghosts. I have seen the future, the past, and the spirit war. I have worked miracles, and I will be here. And then I say, you now have to choose your destiny. You can die a hero, or you can die a villain, a traitor.
I think that turns the failure into a success. 7+, you do it, but on 7 to 9, I choose 1. He looks at you, and it's like the scales have been cast from his eyes. But then you both look down, and he already stabbed you. So the cost is you suffer harm doing it. Take one mark of condition. Now, folks, I am I'm having so much fun. We are almost at time. My question is, do you have 10 or 15 minutes more, or do you want to epilogue out?
I do, yeah. I
Patrick,
mean, I do have time. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
sure. Then 5 minutes is okay.
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a little time.
Okay. So, and he looks at you and throws himself at the monster. He just launches himself with his axe to attack it. Lance, you've taken out amphibious, you've taken out tentacles. There's still this question of it regenerating. Hildraed, it's dragged you towards its maw. It's this, this dislocating jaw that it's going to take a chunk out of you. What do you do as it drags you in?
I will try to turn this to my advantage by, doing the very, Greek hero thing, like lunging into its maw, with my spear stretched out before.
Fine. Let's have you roll to see whether that is enough to render it vulnerable and stop it regenerating. Roll plus steel, I think.
Yeah, that is a +2. I took a new move as my advancement.
Is it a good one?
It is a good one, yeah. It keeps me from getting hurt, basically. It's scavenger.
Oh, yes, so it is. Go ahead.
So that's 9 total.
I don't know if you have a debt you could use to push that up.
I do hold a debt over Lance.
I don't think that's going to apply.
Yeah.
No. So
yeah, the only debts I hold are over Lance and over Elflay the Smith. So I don't think that any of them really apply.
Fine. So yes, I think attacking it in, again, the soft spot is a way to render it vulnerable. So you do that. Your foe chooses one. I think it will inflict a harm on you. Right. As it drags you in, as it squeezes around your chest, as this tentacle drags you in, and you use that momentum to thrust the spear into its maw.
Right. So I will also then use my new move.
Of course.
Which reads, I have a patchwork of armor taken from my slain foes, and when I sacrifice a piece of it to protect myself when I'm trying to render them vulnerable with steel, I have to celebrate the foe I took it from. So let's say that it its maw bites into my chainmail and just tears it in half. Like it comes apart on the rings. All the rivets go flying out, and I do remember that this chainmail was taken from, let's say, something like a troll that also had a patchwork armor of slain foes. So this used to belong to a person, but I do remember at that point how how cruel and brutal that one fight was. Maybe it was my first fight with a real monster and not a person. And that's the trophy that I took. And I am sad to lose it, but I would be even sadder to lose my life or something more important in this fight.
I think that's the first time that we've realized there's any armor under those layers of fur and hide.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. And so it is now vulnerable. Osmund, he fucking stabbed you.
What?
Yes. Blood. What's going on? He stabbed you. What do you do?
So I think if he won't confess his sins, then I can at least confess them for him. So I think Osmond, he pulls that dagger out of his stomach and stabs it straight through his palm with a great tearing wound, as I would like to sacrifice a dying box to my gods to gain insight, to be able to narrate exactly what he did to bind this monster to him.
That works for me. Narrate away. I don't care about the mechanics anymore. Simply narrate.
I think he says, "You, Vicus, I see you. I see your betrayal. I see you in this cave here, sacrificing there, a fire, incense burning, and I'll name a townsmember, someone that had gone missing recently, and I say, I see you holding them near the fire, their blood spilling into it from the gash across their throat, and in the steam, I see this monster. It accepts your sacrifice. It accepts the condemnation of your soul, all for your petty mortal gains."
And I think Vicus stumbles away from you. He was going to kill this thing, but this sudden realization, he's just looking at you. Lance, it is vulnerable. Would you like to try and defeat it? You are muted, but I get the sense that you would.
Yes, yes.
Roll plus steal. You hard bastard.
And seven, barely.
7. On a 7 plus, they are at your mercy. Do they receive it?
Of course not. It's a real monster after all. Perhaps there's like a short flashback to where Lance let other monsters escape, but this time he's actually killing it. And I think he is like stabbing his 2 daggers like into this thing, like frantically, like everywhere, like just in a rage, like. And when he's done, he's looking at Hildraed and he's like, "It was about time you joined me in this fight."
always rubbing it in. I think that I'm going to let Osmund narrate Vicus's fate.
I think Lance deals his death blow to this creature, and it's thrashing. Its tentacles are going everywhere, like they rip out of where the arrows had pinned them down. And as it's sinking down into the depths of this black water, several of those tentacles just like wrap around Vicus, his arm and his leg, and then his throat as they drag him back. And all we see are the like bubbles and waves coming up from the black water.
I think that that's as good a final scene as anything I can imagine, to be honest. Vicus, our evil genius, being sucked into the black waters. If we could have just a single round of stars or roses and thorns, I would be grateful. So let me just do it in the order I can see you. So Patrick, any roses?
Definitely, this was super fun. I really enjoy getting to play with new people, and this is a whole table of new people for me, and you are all wonderful. I especially love the way that people leaned into their temptations as they came up. I'd say Misha especially, like that pride temptation, and you following it to the best of your crowing ability was really great. And Alan, I want to say, like, the whole system is cool. I loved all the little bits of it. It definitely screams my mind for like campaign play, and in that sense, the way that we set up this really juicy and interesting settlement in like 15 or 20 minutes was amazing. Like, I could see having a couple of adventures here and really digging into it. And then like we just pick up and go to another settlement, and it doesn't take us more than 20 or 30 minutes at max to come up with a whole new setting that could be a completely different feel, a completely different sort of story genre. It's a really cool piece of tech.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Chris, any roses?
So many. I totally enjoyed the world building in the beginning. I loved what happened out of it, like this power dynamics in the village. I also enjoyed that how like everyone had his own focus. Like Lance was totally focused on the monster, but like Osmund and Ceolwynn were focused so much more on like the settlement and what was going on there. So this was like really enjoyable to see, okay, who has like the focus where. So this was really cool. I totally enjoyed this cave in the end, and like Osmund in the cave. This was so great. Like this one scene. And obviously, I enjoyed the dynamics between Hildraed and Lance a lot.
So did I. So did I. Dana, any roses? Anything that you particularly would want to highlight as a good part of the experience?
Oh, it was all great. I really love, they say, the building, the making the NPCs and how they show up. It was really nice. I love the Lance and Osmund had a relationship with the two NPCs I brought up, and they fleshed them up a little bit, and was super cool. I love the pacing of the story. I think at the first scenes it was, oh, there's so much anticipation building, like so slow, and maybe for a minute I didn't know if how they was gonna like exploit, no, like how it was going to develop. Like I felt so much tension, and when they finally start to develop and the conflicts get better, it's all worth it, you know, and that was really nice to me. I think that's most of the things that Shambao. Also, I really love the standings. I thought maybe because I was like in a position of to use mine and to have some but I love how Patrick used his standing, which was really the opposite of mine, and also achieve some things that I couldn't because of that. And I love the standing has some like powers, even if it's not the higher one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you scratch me, you'll find a fake GM. You know, what can I say? Misha, any roses?
I think my roses are. I really liked the system. I feel like the interplay between the various deaths, the condition, like the multi-track condition thing, I thought was really smart and really intuitive. The temptations and everything like that was like it all fit together. It feels like a system and not just like a bag of rules, which I think is really good.
That's high praise. Thank you.
Yeah, and I also really like the combat system, so to speak. Like my main issue with vanilla Monster of the Week is that sometimes the combat there can feel a little flat for me. Like it feels like you're just trading damage until somebody drops. But you made it more narrative with the defenses to overcome and the really extensive pick list for all the moves, which I really appreciate. I'm a sucker for pick lists.
Great, thank you. Roses from me to all of you folks for engaging with the kind of genre and the sense of period, which is really tricky with an historical game or anything that claims to be at all historical. It's just, you know, getting people to really go for it, and you did. So that's my general rose to all of you. and everything the rest of you said, I think I would have highlighted as well. But can I just have a quick round of thorns of better if? Patrick, better if?
So I'll say the one thing that I was looking over at the beginning and I thought would be sort of cool that we didn't see was we all started with those debts to the gods, and I was very curious to see like what the gods would call on to pay off those debts. Not just the temptations, but
Yeah.
the like what they might ask us to do.
Yeah, and a one shot is tricky for that, because what I found in the past is that build up debts in the first session, in the second session start calling them in. So I will be running a series in the spring, so we might see it work then. Chris, better if?
Yeah, connecting the characters more, but then I totally agree. It's a one shot and we're already running so late. So but no, really nothing. I mean, I was intimidated a bit when I first looked at it, like all the many moves and the things, because I can never remember, but you walked us through it flawlessly, Ellen. So no, nothing from my side.
Apparently I've discovered I have a video game tutorial voice, which is the nicest rose anyone's offered me in a long time, Misha.
Like especially like the moment you said switch to the settlement tab, I felt like I was being taught to play, I don't know, Banished again.
Thank you. Dana, better if?
I don't know, maybe I have a hard time choosing moves. Like they all seem like a little bit I don't know how to say this, like no one it didn't have like a move that really catches my eye, and that makes it hard to me. Like in general, I can look at the playbooks and find something that's instantly mashing like a scene, and I want to use the move. In these moves, when I use them, I love them, but when I try to imagine, I couldn't.
Was that
now after trying the system, I understand the mechanics, and I think I can choose moves better, and I know what I want. But at first it was hard.
Would you say that was the basic moves and the playbook moves, or
no, the playbook moves especially?
Fine, thank you. That's really helpful. And finally, Misha, better if?
I think better if I feel like when we were maybe creating characters, like each of the playbooks has this little sentence to introduce them. Maybe we could have fleshed that out to have a better feel for the characters, as well as maybe introduce some kind of conflict that we're already bringing into the table, the session / campaign, if applicable. Because otherwise it can feel like you're just like being dropped into a situation.
Yeah, fair point.
And I always prefer feeling like there is baggage in the past that drives conflict on top of whatever the monster of the week is.
Yeah, no, fair point. There is a sketched out faction level game that I'm just trying to work through, which I think the final version will have. So no, I take that. I think some sense of the bigger picture maybe that you exist in. I think that's a very, very sharp point. I've got no better if, folks. You gave me a great afternoon, and I'm so sorry that I overran. Let me stop the recording.